Leon, what you want? Leon, what you want? Leon, what you want?
What is up? What is up, everybody? Welcome to another live stream. Appreciate you guys being here. Well. We got another one shot by ICE and killed in Minnesota. And now everything's turning up. And Antifa is out. They're blocking off roads with trash cans, and ICE is having to throw tear gas at them, and all kinds of stupid stuff is happening now. And this is exactly what they wanted. You see, the thing is, when you try to explain this to the normies that really don't understand what's going on, and they're just going with the flow, everybody hates ICE, so we're going to hate ICE too, those types of people. They really believe, they think that these politicians have individuals out there in the crowd that they know personally, and they call on the phone and say, hey, why don't you go die today for the cause? And that's the way in their minds, I guess, they rationalize it and try to discredit what it is we're actually saying. And what we're actually trying to educate them on is that there are people out there who are already mentally damaged to a severe degree, but they're able to function in normal society. And as a courteous society, we tend to, if not fully accept them and befriend them and all that, we tolerate them, right? There's no like roving gangs of straight men with torches and pitchforks going around looking for gay people to string up, So that, that's not really a thing. But These mentally ill individuals, a lot of times their demonic possession that manifests itself as mental illness, because that's what I believe it is, they tend to be sexual deviants. That's like the first red flag, right? If they're a leftist and they believe what the TV news says and they go along with the narrative and they're sexual deviants, because here's the thing, and sexual deviant doesn't mean like, all gay people are rapists or anything. It just means deviant literally just means someone who deviates from the norm. And the norm is man and woman, male and female. But when you have these rainbow individuals that are hardcore activists for the Democratic Party, it's like the ones that jump on the bandwagon and try to make a name for themselves in those circles tend to be the more crazy ones, the ones with the actual mental illness. So they have this mental illness that manifests itself in the form of sexual deviance. And with the sexual deviance, there's always some sort of hardcore drug use. And this guy was an ICU nurse. So imagine the amount of pills he had access to. And look how skinny he is. Like, I know a lot of dudes, a lot of brothers I went to high school with, and they went to nursing school, and some went to med school and all that shit. And them dudes are swole. Like, they be in the gym. You know what I'm saying? And this scrawny old weird looking dude, like, he was on some dope. And a lot of times it's the dope that brings on this mental illness and destroys these people's neurological functions, so they can't really think for themselves. So now they just do what they're told. And in case you guys are wondering, the guy that got shot in Minneapolis, I don't know if you've seen the pictures posted, but that's him right there. That's him. Tells you all you need to know. This guy was batshit crazy. So you see in the mainstream media, they're showing all these pictures of him, but they're not showing that one. I wonder why. You know why? Because everybody with a sane mind knows you got to be crazy to try to fight with the feds, especially with a gun on you. And because they're trying to paint this guy out to be somebody rational, oh, he was a legal gun owner and had a legal carry permit. That don't mean he wasn't batshit crazy. And this picture right here freaking says it all. And again, when it comes to these demon-possessed sexual deviants, there's always there's mental illness and there's drug use that kind of it enhances the mental illness. Like, these people are literally cracked out of their minds. Like, literally. And the ones that ain't cracked out of their minds are just not the brightest, sharpest knives in the drawer. And then you got some very intelligent people that can articulate themselves very well, but they believe all the bullshit. Those people are basically under the spell. They're under the spell of repeating the lies. Because, you ever watch those cartoons when the witches do their spells and they got to say their spells and shit? They always repeat it over and over like a chant. That's the way they put these seemingly intelligent people with their college degrees and shit. Most of them would be, a lot of us have them as our parents. That's how they got them. They got them with the spell, because these people, this particular generation of people, have been on Earth since the days of TV and radio, mainstream media being your only source of information when it comes to politics and current events. They're completely unaware that the social media world exists. And for the ones that do know about the social media world, the mainstream media has repetitively put a negative connotation on social media in their minds by calling it conspiracy theory. So anything that's not MSNBC, CNN, broadcast by the Democrats, anything that's not mainstream media, to them in their minds is literally not valid, even though all we do is go look at the information that the mainstream media is well aware of but refuses to report. That's literally all we do. All we do is look at the facts of every situation that is not being told to us or spoon-fed to us, and we simply examine it for ourselves. There's public statements made by public figures all the time and on all kinds of situations. That doesn't get reported. Do you know throughout Trump's entire first term of his presidency, the mainstream media did not ever cover one of his entire campaign speeches? Not one. And that's why everybody was like, interesting that CNN is there in Pennsylvania when they shot him, because they don't cover his speeches. Why are they there to cover this speech? And that's kind of that should be, pretty telling to the people who believe the mainstream media. They should be at least wise enough to scratch their heads and wonder, like, but wait a minute. Yeah, we hate him. Yeah, we don't like him, but he's still the president. Why aren't you showing us what the president's saying? But you see, their minds don't operate that way because they've been programmed to hate Donald Trump. Just like the majority of the Western society has been programmed to hate Adolf Hitler. So nobody really cares to read his book. Nobody really cares to look into what his speeches actually said, even though there's AI and the speeches have been translated to English now. And that's pretty telling. They're trying to create the same atmosphere around Donald Trump. So nobody actually listens to what he's saying. Nobody is looking at what he's actually doing. They're just being fed this narrative constantly from the mainstream media. And the unfortunate thing about it is the mainstream media, the controllers of that media network, they have control over all forms of media and every genre that's broadcast in that media. So to these normies, they think that, CBS and ABC are two different news stations, so they must be reporting two different things if one person is lying. It never occurs to them that, hey, wait a minute, they're all owned by the same entities. They all work for the same people, and they're all telling the same lie. It never occurs to them. And it's really sad to watch, but this is the end result of it. An untimely death in the midst of doing something incredibly stupid. This is the extreme end of where falling for that spell and believing the liberalism will lead you. And this is why it's important to understand what's actually taking place with these ICE raids. There's a lot of clowns online trying to, make it seem like ICE is bad and ICE is the enemy and all this, while by default advocating for the illegal aliens and also by default siding with these people. I will never find myself on the same political aisle, on the same political position as these people when it comes to what's best for America. Never. There's no way. Because I'm a thinking man. They are not thinking people. You know why? Because if this grown man was a thinking person, he would know that, hey, if I'm a homosexual and I want to attract other homosexual men, it's better if I purport myself as a man because gay men are attracted to men. It's literally like the math is literally that simple. But he puts on a wig and he paints his face and he puts on a whatever the fuck he's wearing. And he thinks that shit is cool. And another thing that this says about people on the left is how fake and phony they are. Because we know that they don't care about the people they claim to advocate for. They just use them as political pawns. We know that. And people like this guy is the classic case of, and I'm not talking about this guy, that handsome fella right there. That's me right there. That's your boy looking good, looking sharp. That boy looks sharp. Better watch out. Take your bet. You know what I'm saying? That's me. I'm talking about this fella right here on the left. So let's not get it confused, okay? But anyway, people like this guy, if the talking heads on the left actually cared about these people and wanted what was best for these people and really believed in love and acceptance like they did, like they claim they do. Sorry. I was reading the comments at the same time. I don't know how I did that. Like they claim they do. Somebody would have told this guy, like, hey, you look like an idiot and you need to take that shit off and go put on some regular clothes because you look insane. But, it's the whole classic case of he ain't got no friends because nobody's telling him. You know what I'm saying? But this guy right here, that's my dude right there. He'll take you back. That nigga sharp, boy. That boy look sharp. That boy cut clean, boy. Well, why is it that old black men always compliment the young men by saying he'll take your bitch? Why they always do that? They're like, that boy look sharp, boy, that boy look good. Take your bitch. You better watch out, young man. He'll take your bitch. Why they always do that? Like, why can't they just say, hey, young man, you looking pretty sharp today? Like, why can't they just leave it at that? Why I gotta be take your bitch and all that? Nobody trying to take your bitch, man. Got my own bitch. Trying to take yours. I'm not greedy. I ain't no hater. I appreciate the compliment. But anyway, make sure you guys follow me over on Rumble. If you're not following me on Rumble, make sure you get over to Rumble and create an account if you don't have an account and give me a follow, man. Let's grow the Rumble page. Also, make sure you go subscribe to the Citizen Man backup channel. If you haven't subscribed to the backup channel, please make sure you do, because in case they zap me over here, I can get the message out over there. All right. So we stay connected. And Rumble, of course, is where I'll be at all times, because Rumble don't censor like YouTube. And last but not least, if any of you guys would like to support the show by sending in a kind donation via Cash App, PayPal, or Venmo, you could do so by using the tag scrolling across the screen in the banner below. The links that are pinned to the top of the YouTube chat in the black box where it says Citizen Man TV in yellow. Just click the yellow. The box opens up. All the links are there. And you can find those links in the description box of every video on YouTube and Rumble. And fear not, the red X through the PayPal logo is just to remind you guys that PayPal censors comments. So be careful what you say. Keep it surface level, because if they don't like your comment, they'll freeze your account and try to steal your money, and they'll freeze mine and try to steal my money too. So beware of that. All right. And shout out to my good brother Lee14224 with that faithful support on the PayPal. He says Sunday support. Have a great show. Appreciate you, brother Lee. Thank you for that support, my brother. All right. So let's get into it. So Minnesota, or at least Minneapolis, appears to be in collapse. Hence tonight's topic, Minnesota collapse. Another weirdo martyrs himself for the cause. Crooked courts play their hand. And I got a little bit more for you too. And make sure you guys hit that like button. We got 48 on YouTube and 32 likes. So make sure you guys get those likes up. Rumble, you guys do the same thing. Hit the like button. And leave a comment in the chat. Say hi. That helps grow the page. All right. And I did a short video earlier today, kind of like a PSA warning to folks, just reminding them that when you go along with this liberal leftist propaganda, there's a high possibility that it will kill you. Like, you literally will lose your life believing this bullshit. Think about it. Wasn't it the same liberal lefties pushing the masks, destroying everybody's immune systems, and then turn around the very next year and push the vaccines, destroying everybody's cardiovascular systems? Was it not the left pushing that shit? The mainstream media, their cohorts on social media, wasn't it them? And look how many people lost their lives because of that shit. It's that, like, it's literally that simple. Like, once you start buying into what these people are saying and believing what these people are saying, you are literally putting your life at risk over some shit that ain't even real. That's the sad part. Like, these people are literally dying for nothing, for absolutely nothing. But let's get into it. So Donald Trump says the U.S. used a weapon called the discombobulator to capture Maduro. Now, I believe this discombobulator weapon is in reference to the sonic weapon that was used against the Venezuelan military when Trump sent the special forces in. And I believe CIA was already on the ground, and they were the ones that deployed that discombobulator weapon, because the CIA is known to use special weapons like this. And also, they're also known to operate in foreign countries, and they've been very active in South and Central America. I told you guys, I showed you guys the article about that already. We read about that already, haven't we? And the discombobulator, I believe, is going to be deployed by the U.S. military if the Army 11th Division, I think on one of my past streams, I fucked up and called them the 111th, but it was actually the 11th Airborne Division. But anyway, whatever military unit is deployed to Minneapolis, I believe the discombobulator is also going to be deployed with them, because it's going to go from being a classified weapon to a declassified weapon. And I believe the Maduro mission was actually a test run of that weapon. And it was so successful that now it's going to be deployed in an American city because we got foreign infiltrators trying to create chaos in that American city. And that chaos has to be put down and put down quickly. And the orchestrators and the funders and the instigators of these riots also will have to be brought to justice. And I believe that the wheels are in motion for all that to happen. So this is what Trump describes the discombobulator as. And there's an interesting element to this that I didn't even think about. Trump confirmed that the mysterious weapon called the discombobulator was used in the raid that captured Maduro. The discombobulator, I'm not allowed to talk about it. They never got their rockets off. They had Russian and Chinese rockets, and they never got one off. We came in, they pressed buttons, and nothing worked. They were all set for us. So Trump was saying that the Venezuelans had Russian and Chinese missile systems ready to shoot them out of the sky, and their missile systems failed because of this sonic weapon. Very interesting. Guards on the ground described what happened. Radar systems suddenly shut down, then an intense sound wave hit them. They said it felt like their heads were exploding from the inside, and they all started bleeding from the nose and vomiting blood. The weapon made their equipment completely useless. So not only did this sonic weapon, because what we read about it so far was that the sonic weapon only affected the personnel. And that was from the guards' statement about how they were throwing up and they don't want to face anything like that again. They were bleeding out the ears and all of that shit, right? But now Trump is adding a new element to it where apparently not only does this weapon disable personnel, but it disables equipment too. Now that's pretty interesting. That's pretty interesting because that could have been one of two things, in my opinion, right? And this is just my opinion, so don't quote me on this. Just hear me out. It could have been that one weapon accomplished both tasks. Or it could have been that two separate weapons were deployed, and the one with the sound wave that disabled the personnel was the only one detected. Thus, that's the only one being admitted to. Because there is equipment, the U.S. military, they got EMPs and all kind of shit that does, and they have jammers that can shut down radio signals and cell phone signals and radar signals and shit like that. They have all of that. So it could have been some sort of jammer device that shut down their signaling capabilities, or an EMP that shut down their electronics in conjunction with the sound weapon. So it could have been two separate weapons deployed at the same time. Because if this was one weapon that did all of that, I'll tell you right now, that is impressive. That is absolutely impressive if that's the case. And if they deploy that shit in Minnesota, all that noise will come to a screeching halt overnight. Now, we've just had a historic winter storm, and in fact, some of us are still in the brunt of it. And somebody posted this video on Instagram, and I took a screenshot of it, and it says, proof historic winter storm is manufactured. And it doesn't say what city and state it's in, but look what it shows in the sky. There's like a wave of clouds just rolling into the sky. And that's kind of weird because in days leading up to that, there was a lot of chemtrailing all through that area, that airspace over America where the snowstorm actually hit. Now, in Minnesota, they got frigid temperatures. It's like Antarctica temperatures out there. It's like an Antarctic summer out there. It's like -22 out that motherfucker. And that is partly because of this snowstorm and of course, the Arctic, whatever, the Arctic blast or whatever the hell it is that's coming down from the north. But I believe that the frigid temperatures is to kind of slow things down because, again, Minneapolis is not the only city where the ruckus is taking place. It's just the one with the most amount of ruckus and it's getting the most amount of coverage. But ICE is conducting raids all across the country, and they're meeting resistance in states all across the country. It's just not to the level that it is in Minneapolis. So I believe what's happening with this engineered snowstorm is it's being engineered by the Trump administration to kind of slow down what's going on in the street. Because if it's freezing ass cold, less people will be willing to come outside, which to me would make sense. But you never know, because RFK Jr. claims he wants to now put an end to Bill Gates backed solar geoengineering, calling it a crime. So RFK Jr. has actually been calling out the chemtrailing, and unfortunately, there's not much that the federal government can actually do about it, because it's been denied by previous administrations that all the agencies are under directives that there's no threat here, there's nothing to investigate, turn a blind eye, nothing to see here. And this all was put in place by prior administrations. So all the agencies that are supposed to test the chemicals and assess whether these are contrails or chemtrails coming from these planes, they've all concluded that they're harmless. That they're harmless contrails. So they've been lying for so long that now they got to go back and change all the assessments, all the analyses. And apparently they've come a long way in doing that, because now RFK Jr. is now taking a stand to shut it down. Now, the problem with the past administrations was based on the fact that these were private companies that were doing the chemtrailing and spraying the chemicals and contracting the aircrafts they would attach the chemical canisters to and have them fly in the sky and spray it. So there would be commercial airlines that were chemtrailing, private planes that were chemtrailing, military planes that were chemtrailing. Because again, the military is a big machine and the president can't oversee every single thing at the same time. And if past presidents okayed it, Trump can put a stop to it, but that means he can only stop the military planes from doing it because he's got direct control over the military. But as far as the private planes being privately contracted by these private chemical companies, there's not really much that the federal government can do about it, because in past administrations, when people were calling it out, the federal government kept turning a blind eye to it and calling it conspiracy theory and pretending like it didn't exist. So now the agencies face a dilemma where, because of their compliance with past administrations, they now have to come out and say, yeah, we lied, and absolutely discredit themselves even further, and then say, but now we're going to put a stop to it. Who's going to believe them after that? Right? Or they can just continue to act like it's not real, like it's not happening, and just let it continue, let it go on. So I think the dilemma that we're in is that they're just going to continue to let it go on. But now that RFK Jr. is calling it out, maybe something is going to change in there. Maybe there's a new wave of people, administrators within those agencies, that are actually willing to do the right thing and admit that this shit is real, admit that it's going on, admit how dangerous it is, and then put a stop to it. Because remember, they were doing the same thing with the vaccine schedule, right? They were lying to us for years, telling them they're safe and effective. Vaccines don't cause autism. A new presidential administration comes in. RFK Jr. takes over Health and Human Services. And guess what? Now they're being forced to admit it. And they've severely cut down on the vaccine schedule. So there's a very good chance that RFK Jr. might actually succeed in stopping the chemtrailing. And I will tell you this, there's been a serious slowdown in the chemtrailing. It has not been, because I remember under the Obama administration, it was all day, every day, all day, every day. There wasn't a single day like you didn't see a normal cloud in the sky ever. Every cloud was a chemtrail. It was crazy. But considering the fact that RFK Jr. has been so successful with the vaccine, with the fight against the bad vaccines, I think that he might succeed with this chemtrail shit. But again, that's yet to be seen because it's one man against a machine, and that machine pays pretty well. So it'll be hard to get those operatives to say, you know what, I'm going to give up this Ferrari and give up this mansion just to tell the truth. Like, they're not going to do that shit. They'll sit there and lie to your ass. But speaking of vaccines, reporter who pushed concentration camps for unvaccinated dies at age 33. And this was reported on December 14th, 2023. And we've seen a lot of this where these individuals in the mainstream media and politicians on the left and proponents of the left have been pushing the vaccines and demonizing people who decide not to take it, even came up with a label calling us anti-vaxxers. And then we turn around and see a lot of them dropping dead. And we're just like, yeah, we told you. We tried to tell you. You know what I'm saying? This is just another example of that. But I also bring this up to point out the hypocrisy because, again, these lefties were the same people calling for concentration camps for us Americans who wanted to exercise our right to not have experimental medicine forced into our bodies, right? Now, all of a sudden, there's concentration camps for foreign nationals who shouldn't be in the country anyway, and all of a sudden, concentration camps are bad. Ain't that something? Almost reminds you of those same Democrats that were running around saying Trump can't in 2018, saying Trump can't build the wall because walls are racist and it's racist to build a wall and all this stupid shit. And then they go home to their mansion behind the wall. It's the same stupidity. But again, the people that fall for this propaganda, they don't see these stark contradictions because they're programmed to ignore anything logical as long as it contradicts what they've already been pre-programmed to believe. So they've been given this set of beliefs, and along with these beliefs, they've been given the belief that anything that contradicts these beliefs is conspiracy theory. It's bad. They're bad people. That's why they can't make money on the internet. That's why they can't keep a channel up, because they're bad, and shouldn't be speaking. That's the way they sell it to them. And these people actually believe that shit. They never stop to think that, wait a minute. Only the people who are lying would be interested in censoring people. Because if you're lying, the truth will overshadow the lie, because the truth will always make more sense than the lie. So if we allow these people to keep telling the truth and reaching a larger and larger audience, eventually our lie won't work anymore. So the only way to make our lie work is to silence the people who are putting out the truth. They never stop to think that, hey, it's only liars that believe in censorship, because that's what they need. Their arguments can't stand on their own. So they have to shut down the argument and make it non-debatable. This is the only way that we see it. This is the only way it goes. This is the way that it is. And there's nothing else to contradict that. And that's a religion in itself. And it's a satanic religion because it's based on deception. There's no truth in it whatsoever. None. No truth. Everything they believe in is fake and falsehood. Now, here is an interesting factoid, since we just got talking about the hang on a second. I got to blow my nose. I feel all congested and shit. All right. Since we just got done talking about the Board of Peace on the last show, here's Politico reporting that the Pentagon no longer views China threat as top priority. Remember early in Trump's first administration, it was China. Remember that? And then we seen this rash of Chinese spies get arrested and deported out of America and sent back to China. Well, now the Pentagon is saying China ain't that big of a threat. This is the Pentagon themselves. And what have I been telling you guys this entire time? Have I not been telling you guys that China is not as big of a threat as people are trying to make it out to be? And Russia is actually an ally of ours. And Russia has neutralized the China threat because they have China under their control, and Putin has an alliance with Trump. So Putin will make sure that China does not pose a threat to us anymore, and the proper seat changes that need to be made in China to get the right people in office who will cooperate with Donald Trump rather than oppose Donald Trump. Well, those seat changes are actually being made. The National Defense Strategy, the National Defense Strategy, a dramatic shift from previous administrations, reinforces many of the military moves already undertaken by the president. But this is the important part right here. A dramatic shift from previous administrations. That's because Donald Trump is not one of those presidents from the previous administrations who were sold out and bought and paid for. Donald Trump came in with his own money and his own people. So he can do all of this because they can't touch him now. But just to show you why the Pentagon is saying this, Xi's purge of China's military brings its top general down. Remember, I told you in Russia, they were dealing with a deep state, just like we're dealing with a deep state here in America. But Russia was able to win that fight faster than we were because half the Russian population wasn't brainwashed by the deep state. Well, in China, Xi Jinping has been doing the same thing, and he's completed an entire purge of his military. Because in countries like China, the military has a lot of say in what goes on domestically, because it's the military that's tasked with policing the people. In these communist countries, that's how it works. The military, the police, they're all one and the same. So a purge of the military would mean a purge in their enforcement power, which means new people are coming in. And as this happens, the Pentagon's reporting that China's no longer a threat, which means the deep state is being flushed out of China. Now, this I found to be very strange, because the UK is completely sold out and bought off and owned by the Zionists, just like most of the US government is. But they kicked out a student, UK student visa revoked after protest. And this is, again, one of those pro-Palestinian protesters. And just like the Khalil Muhammad dude who's set to be rearrested and deported out of America and sent back to Algeria, this guy is getting kicked out of the UK. But the contrast is they're really kicking this guy out of the UK because he's an anti-Zionist. Khalil Muhammad is being kicked out of America because he's actually a Zionist posing as an anti-Zionist. He's an Israeli Mossad spy. And what his job was to radicalize these pro-Palestinian students and encourage them to commit crimes and be violent and act like Antifa. And the reason for that was to demonize the pro-Palestinian movement. So when the world watches, they'll see a whole bunch of dumbass leftist college kids that believe in 26 genders supporting Palestine, and they'll say, oh, well, Israel must be right, because if these dummies support Palestine, I'm not siding with these dummies, so I'll side with Israel. That was the play. And it didn't work. And of course, Trump kissing up to Israel, playing nice with Israel because of the domestic terror threat, he kicks Khalil Muhammad out of the country based on his cover-up, being an anti-Zionist and an anti-Semite and all that. We're going to kick you out on behalf of Israel, when it's actually them kicking him out because of Israel. But this is why a lot of people don't really understand what's going on with these situations, because it differs from country to country. Thus, the motivations are different from country to country because the leadership differs from country to country. And Trump is not like any other president before. In everything that he does, it's unprecedented. And it's, like that article said previously, a dramatic shift from previous administrations. But let's look at some details here. A UK university student, Usama Ghanem, faces deportation after his visa was revoked following pro-Palestinian activism. The university cited non-academic misconduct, while supporters claim he's targeted for his views. Ghanem fears persecution if returned to Egypt. So, like I said, if you go look at Algeria and who's been in control of Algeria, it's been the Zionists and their operatives who have been running Algeria. Algeria is a Zionist haven for Mossad agents and Mossad spies. Egypt, on the other hand, is actually anti-Zionist and they're opposed to Israel. So the UK, like I said, is kicking this guy out because he's actually opposed to Israel, considering the fact that he comes from Egypt, which is a country that's diametrically opposed to Israel. Whereas Khalil Muhammad is working for Israel. That's why he comes from a country that's been mostly cooperative with Israel. You see the difference? You see how I can read the chessboard and make these determinations as to whose motivations is what because I know who's who in the game? You see, most people don't know the Zionist connections to Algeria, and most people aren't aware that Egypt is a very strong enemy of Israel. So they wouldn't be able to read it the way I read it. They'll just see two anti-Palestine or two pro-Palestinian protesters getting kicked out of the countries that they're protesting in and think, oh, the Jews control those countries. But, well, in one case, yes. In the other case, no. But that's how the spies operate. They got to pretend to be the real thing. So I don't believe this guy was a spy at all. I believe this guy was really pro-Palestinian for real. Whereas Khalil Muhammad was a fucking spy. Or Khalil Mahmoud, or whatever the hell his name is. I kept saying Muhammad. Now, President Trump demands jail time for massive voter fraud, calls for the Senate to nuke the 60-vote filibuster and pass the SAVE Act. Nevada voter fraud, 4,000 non-citizens voted. He's right, GOP. Start listening to Donald Trump and win 2026. So this is what Donald Trump posted on Truth Social. These people must be in jail for a long time. Totally rigged election. And he reposted Taya's tweet. And it says, Nevada voter fraud. 42,000 people voted more than once. 1.5 thousand, that's 1,500 dead people voted. 19,000 voted while living outside Nevada. 8,000 used non-existent addresses. 15,000 used commercial or vacant addresses. 4,000 non-citizens voted. And again, this is in one state. This is why we need the SAVE Act. Nuke the filibuster and pass the SAVE Act. Now, again, this is one state, right? Hear me out. This is one state. So imagine what took place in all those other Democratic states. This is how they win elections. They have been rigging elections from the beginning, but it's always been Democrats and Republicans rigging elections because Bush definitely had the elections rigged in 2004 when the dispute came out of Florida between him and Al Gore, who won Florida, and his brother, George W. Bush's brother, Jeb Bush, just happened to be the governor at the time. And the state of Florida was awarded to George W. Bush. That's how he won. But you see, when Trump came in, the entire deep state operation shifted left. So you don't have too many Republicans left because Trump's been cleaning house in his first term. So you don't have too many Republicans and conservatives left on the right that would actually oppose Trump. All those guys have been given the boot. They're now rejects. Like Ben Shapiro and them, they're all fucking rejects. The Bush supporters in them, they're all rejects. Right? And so 95% of the opposition to Trump you see coming from the left and coming exclusively from the Democrats. The most the Democrats get out of their Republican cohorts nowadays is quiet cooperation, meaning they just don't vote on bills they should vote no on. Not to give the Democrats an extra vote, but to rob the Republicans of a vote. in Congress. That's the way they play it now. They don't oppose things that they should oppose, and they just tend to stay quiet because the loud ones are all gone. You see what I'm saying? But this fraud is what keeps the Democrats in power, and I believe that in every Democratic state and Democratic city, they have done this. Which now makes me think about Minnesota and the psychotic shit that's going on in Minnesota. Because every Democratic state where they have a Democratic governor, there's a lot of problems in those states. The cost of living is very high. And Virginia just had a gubernatorial election, and this Democrat woman won the election, and there's cries from the right about more election fraud that took place in Virginia, and I believe it. Because if you just look at the way the districts are drawn in the state of Virginia, you could tell there's massive gerrymandering, and that should be a red state. Every single blue state with a Democratic governor, the vast majority of the state, all those are red counties. And then the few big cities where the majority of the state population lives are all Democratic. So all they have to do is steal the elections in these particular counties and they win the whole state. Fuck everybody else. And that's how they do it. That's why all these major cities, and a lot of them were quote unquote black cities. This is why so many of them came under scrutiny after the 2020 election fraud, because these were the epicenters where the fraud took place, because these were the places critical to steal in order to win the entire state. That was the way they had to play it. Look at this. Virginia's state tax rate could rise from 5.75% to 13.8%, highest in the nation. And this woman, again, a Democrat, gets elected to Virginia. If you go look at the political county map of Virginia, the vast majority of those counties are red. But when you look at the population density map, the densest populations live in these crammed, cooped up blue areas. Like in New York State, for example, geographically, the vast majority of the state is red. And there's only a few blue cancer spots that exist. The main one being New York City. There's about 18, 19 million people in New York, in the state of New York. In New York City alone is about 9 million. That is a huge percentage of the state population concentrated in that one area. So anybody running for governor, if they win New York City, they're a shoo-in for the governorship. It's that, it's that crazy. And it's that unfair. But that's the way the game goes, and the Democrats know how to play the game, so they know how to rig the game too, because they've been playing it for decades. But this is how they get in power. Look at this shit. Maryland Democrat pushes plan to punish ICE veterans with job ban. So the guys that retire from ICE or leave ICE after these operations are concluded, he wants to, in the state of Maryland, ban them from getting jobs in the state. Black man trying to defend illegal aliens, when the illegal aliens in a lot of parts of the country pose a larger threat, a bigger threat to the black man than the white man. This is why they keep you. This is why they got to keep using their fake conscious community to keep you hating the white man, the white man, the white man. Because what they won't tell you is the white man has co-opted the brown man to subvert you, black man. That's the game they're playing now. But you see, because you've been brainwashed into believing the white man, the white man, the white man, when you see the brown man, you see an ally. You don't see a group that's here to subvert you. You see somebody else who the white man hates, just like the white man hates you. So now you're going to side with the brown man because you hate the white man. And it sounds crazy when you put it like that, but that's literally the mentality. This is where they get the whole black and brown alliance bullshit from. When everybody knows, who's lived in the real world, that a lot of times in these Hispanic communities, black people experience more racism than at the hands of white people. Hell, these Hispanics literally have more names, derogatory names for black people than white people have for black people. Well, white people got the N-word, monkey, boy. That's about it. I mean, they might porch monkey. They might be, if that's monkey, they might be a few more. These Hispanic motherfuckers in every country they live in, they got a whole dictionary of names for your black ass. And then they come over here and you think they want to be your fucking friend? And what makes you think they want to be your fucking friend is assholes like these that are selling you out and throwing you under the bus to cater to those people. And because you see a black man in government catering to them, you think, oh, well, he must know because he knows what's going on. He's a politician. He's smart. I'll follow him and I'll listen to him. And the next thing you know, your fucking whole neighborhood speaks Spanish and you're not welcome there anymore. That's the way they're playing the game, and they play dirty, and they use anybody they can. Anybody with a price, they will pay that price, buy them off, or anybody with a sexual perversion, they'll blackmail them, and they'll use them. NBC News reports Senate Democrats threatened to block DHS funding bill after another person killed in Minneapolis. And you see, this is what I mean. They want these people to martyr themselves to push their political agenda and to get more people in the streets to further push their political agenda. Because what the Senate Democrats should be doing is calling for their followers in the streets to calm the fuck down and let ICE do their jobs. ICE is operating in almost every city across the United States right now. But in most cities, you don't even know they're there. You know why? Because there ain't a bunch of idiots in the street making a spectacle of themselves. That's why. So they're able to do their jobs, do it quietly, and there's no chaos. But in Minneapolis, they've brought out the idiots and the paid goons, and they're creating chaos. They're making a scene. They're the ones making all the trouble. And it's all in defense of the illegal aliens. And it's to their own detriment and at their own peril. But they're too stupid to know this. Because again, they're under that spell. They're under that damn spell. Oh shit. I had two people hit the Cash App over on Citizen Man, on $ Citizen Man. I don't stay signed into that one, so I don't normally see the notification. Sorry, y'all. I had to just check real quick. But shout out to my man Ronald. He said the truth. And shout out to my sister Angela. She says, for all you do. Appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for that support. So we got 3 supporters on the board. That's what's up. That is what's up. Appreciate y'all, man. Do we have another one? Yes, we do. Shout out to Beaver Valley. Says, thank you for everything. Appreciate you, Beaver Valley. Appreciate that support. You guys are awesome. That's what, 4 now? We got 4 on the board. You see that? I'm getting all these donations, but I'm not getting any notifications. They playing. They trying to get y'all to not donate, but I'm going to check periodically, so don't worry. You know, I already know how they play dirty, so I'm going to try to counter their strategy, I guess. Now, again, these Democrats, they are the ones fomenting the chaos, and they're calling out all the crazies because they know. Because here's the thing. These liberals, these Democrats in government, they're not stupid people. They're evil people. But they know that the people who follow them and believe their lies are stupid people. And they know that a lot of these stupid people are crazy people. And they know that if they push enough rhetoric out there into the atmosphere about fighting ICE and being violent, and they slyway keep saying things that hint at that without saying it directly, they know that their followers are going to get fired up, and they're going to go out there and they're going to fight with ICE, and somebody's going to get themselves hurt, and they can then capitalize on the bloodshed of that person in order to forward their agenda. And that's literally what they're doing. This is why I made that video earlier, and I said they don't care about you. They don't care whether you live or you die. In fact, they want you to die, because if you die, that helps them. You're cannon fodder to them. That's all you are. A.G. Mays, that's Attorney General of Arizona. ICE is not real police. Who else we heard say this? Wasn't it that fat, stupid ass sheriff in Philadelphia that can't even pronounce Philadelphia? Motherfucker look like somebody old auntie, talk like she missing her back teeth, but she's a sheriff. Like, give me a break. These are supposed to be people of the law that are supposed to know the law. And in knowing the law, they should know that ICE is a federal agency. Thus, they actually have more jurisdiction than quote unquote real police. And she says, stand your ground is ready. The green light protocol. So let's see what the green light protocol is, because the green light protocol sounds like some go out there and get violent type shit, right? And this is an attorney general saying this. You see how dangerous these people are? They literally want to get people hurt. Arizona AG Chris Mays just signaled open season on federal agents by putting officers in air quotes and claiming ICE isn't real law enforcement. She is effectively stripping them of their legal protection. Worse, she is openly coaching the public to use stand your ground laws against masked federal agents performing their duties. This isn't a legal opinion. It is a tactical manual for state-sanctioned violence against the border's last line of defense. When the highest law officer in the state tells you that you can, quote unquote, defend yourself against federal police, the rule of law has officially evaporated. Yes, this is extremely dangerous. And you know what? I believe it's rhetoric like this that got that weirdo killed. It's rhetoric like this because he was real bold approaching those ICE officers and try to confront those ICE officers and fight with those ICE officers and shit when he had his pistol on him. And there's been videos circulating all over social media. I see a lot of them on Instagram where people would actually pull over, get out their cars in the street and claim to be concealed carry holders and threaten ICE and say, oh, I'm gonna do something to you if you try to come get me or whatever. Like, they're really hyping these people up and putting the battery in their back. And that shit is crazy. We have never seen anything like this in our country, where people within government who operate in a legal capacity, people of the law, we've never seen this level of lawlessness from our legislators and from their subordinate law enforcement. We've never seen this. And for those of you out there who hate Trump and really think Trump's the bad guy, like, you really got to take a look at this type of shit and ask yourself, like, is Trump really the bad guy? Because these people that are constantly telling me that Trump is the bad guy, they're really engaging in some diabolical shit right now that only a bad guy would do. So I really have to reevaluate my position, because these are the people who desperately need me to hate Trump and oppose Trump. And this is the type of nonsense that they're putting out to the public. And we're seeing the end result of it. Now, with the Don Lemon case, right? Conflict of interest scandal. Judge, and that's Judge Micco. That's the one that we identified as the judge that let Don Lemon off the hook. Married to Keith Ellison AG staffer, refuses arrest for Don Lemon, who disrupted Christian church service. So If you don't know who Keith Ellison is, he is the Attorney General of Minnesota, and he is a proud Antifa member. Right, Antifa runs the law in Minnesota, and and his staffer, one of his female staffers, I would presume, but he's a Democrat, so there's no telling. One of his staffers is married to the judge that let Don Lemon off the hook. So there's always a political connection. Every time you see crooked shit like this going on, there's always a political connection. And now the latest with the Don Lemon thing is there was a panel of judges on the Minnesota appeals court that also let Don Lemon off the hook. And I believe that this is being done to demonstrate that the courts in Minnesota have also collapsed and caved to political bias and are no longer impartial. Right? Now, that would make sense considering the political climate, considering the political party that runs that entire state, considering the level of fraud that was being facilitated by the politicians, and you know they grease these judges. That would make perfect sense. But here's another theory, right? And it's kind of weird that I would even say this, but this will be me kind of giving Don Lemon the benefit of the doubt, I guess. But think about this, right? Whenever there's a crime committed by a group of individuals, right? And everybody gets arrested and goes to jail. If somebody snitches, they tend to get the better deal. In some cases, they get to walk free. So I'm not saying Don Lemon went in there with them, got arrested, and when he was in the interrogation room or got taken in, and when he was in the interrogation room being questioned by police, he told on everybody or anything. I'm actually saying this could be deeper than what we think it is. Don Lemon could actually be working for the White Hats, and his job was to orchestrate that whole shit to draw these rats out of their hole and get them to infiltrate that church on Sunday, violate the law. Everybody gets investigated. Certain people get charged. But Don Lemon, being the rat, he gets to go free. And here's why I say that. And here's why I even chose to entertain that theory, right? Let's say there's other groups of people that feel emboldened after that church invasion and they want to go invade another sacred space or violate the law as a group in some other way, pretending as if they're peacefully demonstrating, right? Who better to lead the charge than the guy who got away with it last time, Don Lemon? So now he can sucker another group of individuals to go do something similar and get themselves mopped up. Because the dusty beard dude, the Sherm head dude, William Kelly, he didn't get let off the hook. Haven't heard nothing about him, but these two got let off the hook. The fat lady with the brown teeth and then the ugly chick with the rubber face. Federal judge reject DOJ motion to detain arrested Minnesota protesters. Nakima, whatever the hell her name is, and then this person. They're getting let off the hook too, apparently. But here's where it gets interesting, right? Here's where it gets interesting. They might be getting let off the hook for now because of these judges' rulings, but the Department of Justice still has the ability to convene grand juries and get indictments from grand juries, groups of citizens, rather than these individual singular judges. So there's still another avenue. And I think what DOJ is doing is they're exhausting every possible resource and exposing these compromised judges at the same time, because what these people did obviously did violate the federal law, the FACE Act, and they should be criminally charged and they should be prosecuted for it. But these judges that are letting them off the hook are basically making a statement saying, I don't care what crime they committed. They're my people and they're going to walk free as long as I hold this power. So the grand juries can still indict these people. So it's not over. But of course, the fake news, you let them tell it, they'll make you believe that it's over. It's a done deal. They walk free. The conservatives are lying. And yes, protesters can invade churches. Do you think DOJ is going to let that shit stand? Because if that shit stands, no church is safe after that. And you know what these demonic Satanists in the streets under that liberal mainstream media spell are going to do? They're going to terrorize those church people just like the Ku Klux Klan terrorized black churches back in the day. And oddly enough, the Ku Klux Klan was a creation of the Democratic Party, and these church crashers are also a creation of the Democratic Party. They just got blackface on today. They're literally the Klan in blackface and fag face. Andrew P. says, Citizen Man. Patents mean only one company can make police tasers. Obama says blacks can't swim because of trying to keep hair straight. I'm not sure what you're trying to convey there, my brother. So, judges in Minnesota denied motions by the Trump administration to detain 3 protesters arrested this week for demonstrating inside a St. Paul church, whose pastor allegedly works for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. U.S. District Judge Laura M. Provenzino wrote in her order for 2 of the protesters, Nakima Valdez, Levi Armstrong, and Chantil Louisa Allen, that Justice Department lawyers failed to demonstrate that a detention hearing is warranted or that detention is otherwise appropriate. Wow. So the judge says they get to invade a church and you can't lock them up. Let me look up this judge really quick. Give me a second. Judge Laura M. Provenzino. Oh, yeah. She looks batshit crazy. She looks just as crazy as the other 2 judges. Assumed office September 16th, 2024. Appointed by none other than Joe Biden. So all of these judges are Joe Biden auto pen judges. So there's a pattern emerging here where it could actually result in the complete removal of all these judges. And here's the crazy part. All this drama in the street, Trump might be letting this go on and allowing these courts to continue to fail. So when the military comes in, they'll establish the courts and they'll hold court and they'll put the state under Uniform Code of Military Justice, martial law. It sounds like the stage is being set for a complete override of the Minnesota courts from federal to state level. That's what it sounds like to me. Activists who stormed church, the rubber-faced chick, paid $215,000, while nonprofit gave just $158,000 in grants. So the whole organization gave $160,000, while she was raking in an extra $60,000, breaking in that $160,000 plus an extra $60,000 on top of it. These people are scammers. They're all scammers. They set up these nonprofits so they can take bribes and they can do jobs and get paid for them, but they get paid in the form of donations so they don't have to pay taxes. You want to talk about the rich people avoiding taxes? These nonprofit motherfuckers are the rich people that avoid the taxes. That's why they run nonprofits. Let's go. And guys, don't worry. I got that video of the shooting for y'all too. Oh, yes, I do. Greg Jarrett says dismissing the charges against Don Lemon raises red flags, predicting the DOJ will bypass the magistrate and pursue an indictment through a grand jury or a district judge. Rejecting the charges against Don Lemon smells fishy to me, and we may actually learn more about the magistrate's motivations, his bias, and his conflict of interest. Legally, the magistrate would have had to decide that the prosecutors did not meet the standard for probable cause. But personally disagreeing with the wisdom or fairness of bringing the case is not a valid ground for overriding the charging decision. I thoroughly expect the DOJ to do one of two things here: either bypass the magistrate by going directly to a grand jury for an indictment against Don Lemon, or go to a real district court judge. So there's still options on the table to prosecute not only Don Lemon, but this applies to the other two too. But this failure in the courts, again, it's setting the stage, in my opinion, for a complete override of the civilian courts by the military. Marines head to Minneapolis to evaluate riots and advise POTUS on martial law. Now, here's what they're not telling you. Will those Marines be in uniform, or will those Marines be in civilian clothes present as observers to collect intel? That's what they're not telling you. Because the National Guard was present at the 2020 election. That's how the military ended up getting all the real vote numbers, and the military got the real perpetrators who were directly involved in the election fraud. That's why a lot of them disappeared, and we don't see or hear from them anymore. And the rest of them are nameless, so we'll never see or hear from them ever, right? But when you go read about Operation Cybercom on the militarytimes.com website, Operation Cybercom was described as a cooperative military task force consisting of digital units and physical boots on the ground units. And the digital units, their job was to monitor all the traffic and all the interactions between the voting machines and the servers. And that's how they were able to locate the servers in Barcelona, Spain, Frankfurt, Germany, and also in Venezuela, Caracas, Venezuela. Now, in that same article, it describes the boots on the ground units as being dressed as quote unquote neighbors, which means they would be wearing civilian clothes. Thus, they would not be noticed by the other volunteers working at the polling station as undercover military operatives. You can go read the article for yourself. I've read that article on my stream more than once, on my streams, I should say, past streams more than once. So for those of you that were fortunate enough to be here to see that, you know I'm not lying. And I'll be happy to do it again if you guys so decide. It's up to you. But the Marines headed to Minneapolis. It's very possible that they could have already have been there. And they've probably been reporting back that, hey, it ain't hot enough yet. It ain't hot enough yet. There ain't enough of them out on the street. They haven't organized yet. But now with this queer getting his ass shot off, well, now there's more of them on the street. And Antifa, the designated domestic terrorist organization known as Antifa, they are hyperactive in the streets now. They've fully activated. And guys on YouTube, we got 87 watching and 57 likes. What is going on? Hit that like button. Hit that like button. We could break 100 tonight, man. Hit that like button. Let's do it. Let's see if we can do that shit. We got 89 now and 57 likes. We should have at least 80 likes. Come on. What are you guys doing? And we're still stuck at 57. Oh, now we're at 58. Somebody felt bad for me. But check this out. Pentagon dispatching 25 military lawyers to Minneapolis to assist federal prosecutors. The Pentagon said it is dispatching at least 25 military lawyers to Minneapolis to assist federal prosecutors, the latest step in a broader push to place military attorneys in civilian courtrooms. Oh, shit. Do you know what that means, people? Do you know what that means? Well, if you don't know, let me explain. when you have military attorneys integrating into civilian courtrooms, and it's under the circumstances of a foreign occupation with treasonous traitors running the local government, that integration of military attorneys into civilian law is the first step in transitioning the civilian judicial system into a military judicial system, because the military lawyers, they have to look over every single case pertaining to the current situation that they're dealing with, and the individuals that are currently being prosecuted have previously been prosecuted and are currently under investigation. They have to examine all of those cases in order to take them over. So it looks like not only is the stage being set for a complete military takeover, but the judicial branch is also being positioned to what's the word to transition into that military takeover. See what I'm saying? And again, this is not me making this up. This is real reporting. Michael Baxter is a real reporter that reports on military stuff that mainstream don't tell you. Mind you, this is ABC News. How about that one? That shit I just read you, that's ABC News. So if you don't think it's valid, if it doesn't came from the mainstream media, well, that came from the mainstream media, so it's valid. All right. Breaking. ICE has now watched more kids in Minneapolis than a Somali daycare. I had to do it. I had to do it, y'all. I had to do it. I couldn't help myself. I can't help myself. Because these jokes just write all themselves. So this is a sad story. And the mainstream media, again, with their propaganda push, have been pushing this story about this 5-year-old boy that ICE arrested on his way home from school and all this dumb shit, right? But it's a lie. What happened was the boy was in the car with his father and mother, who are illegal aliens, or his father, I guess, who was an illegal alien. The car was stopped. The father fled and left the boy in the car. ICE then takes the boy to his mother's house, knocks on the door to hand the boy over to his mother, and the mother didn't answer the door. That's how that went down. And that's how ICE ended up in custody of the child, and eventually the child was returned to the mother. So Trisha McLaughlin says a horrific smear. ICE did not arrest a child or use a child as bait. ICE law enforcement officers were the only people primarily concerned with the welfare of this child. The father and alleged mother abandoned the child. Agitators scared the child. On January 20th, ICE conducted a targeted operation to arrest Adrian Alexander Conejo Arias, an illegal alien from Ecuador who was released into the U.S. by the Biden administration. As agents approached, Adrian Alexander Conejo Arias fled on foot, abandoning his child. For the child's safety, one of our ICE officers remained with the child while the other officers apprehended Conejo Arias. Our officers made multiple attempts to get the alleged mother, who was inside the house, to take custody of her child. Officers even assured her she would not be taken into custody. I guess that's a typo there. The alleged mother refused to accept custody of the child. The father told officers he wanted the child to remain with him. During this situation, agitators swarmed the scene and began yelling and blowing horns, scaring the child. You see, those fucking agitators. They don't care about the children. Remember, this is the pro-abortion crowd that believes in murdering unborn children. They don't care about the children. Remember, this is the tranny story time crowd that believes in sexually grooming children. They don't care about children. But if they can use a situation with a child to help push their political agenda, which is their anti-ICE movement, oh boy, they will care about that child like they're his parents. Well, better than his parents in this case. Officers' primary concern during the entire operation was the safety and welfare of the child. Following, following the mother's abandonment of the child, officers abided by the father's wishes to keep the child with him and even got the child McDonald's and played his favorite music. Father and son are together at Dilley. Parents are asked if they want to be removed with their children, or ICE will place the children with a safe person the parent designates. This is consistent with past administrations' immigration enforcement. Parents can take control of their departure and receive a free flight and $2,600 with the Customs and Border Patrol Home app. Customs and Border Protection Home app, sorry. By using the CBP Home app, illegal aliens reserve the chance to come back the right way, the right legal way. So I didn't even know this, that CBP had an app for these illegal aliens to not only self-deport, but get a check for self-deport. So they're literally offering to pay these fucking people to leave the country. And they're still doing all this. Like, wow. Wow. But you know what? I understand why. Because that welfare money they're getting from those Democrats in the sanctuary cities, it's a hell of a lot more than $2,600. I'll tell you that. And it's consistent. It ain't a one-time check. So I guess they're trying to take the better deal. That is wild. I did not even know that. I'm about to go tell them I'm a legal alien and go take a free trip somewhere. Just bring my passport with me and shit, and then just fly back. Like, I'm American. Fuck. What are y'all talking about? ABC News. Army vet detained by ICE for 8 hours says he wasn't allowed to call an attorney. If I can't advocate for people who need it, then who else is going to do it? January 23rd, 2026. And that's the Army veteran right there. And you know what? I'm starting to believe that these so-called Army veterans, I'm starting to believe that these guys are stolen valor and they're not really Army veterans. Like, I seriously doubt that. But then again, you know, stupid people can join the Army too. They don't exactly hire you for your brains, you know, in the military, the majority of folks. And I'm sad to say it, because a grunt's a grunt is a grunt, right? And I believe that these guys were like, if they are veterans, they were the guys that wanted to see action, but never got to see any action. And this is the closest to seeing action they're ever going to get to. So they want to play hero and be the, you know, be tough guy and shit. Well, the feds are a little tougher, buddy. The feds are a little tougher. And the fact that he's balding right here in the top of his head, I don't know if y'all can see that. Right here in the middle of his head, he's balding. That's a sign of low testosterone. Just so you guys, just so you know. And a lot of these dudes got that low T look. And look how skinny he is. They just all look so fucking weird. And another reason why I don't believe they're Army veterans is because their basic lack of knowledge of American law. It really shines in these situations, because ICE's job is to arrest and detain individuals who are suspected of being in the country illegally. Once they're able to identify you as a legal resident or citizen of this country, they have to release you. They cannot hold you any further if that's the only reason for them holding you. So all these American citizens that are getting detained by ICE and screaming about their rights, they're forgetting one very important fact. Foreign nationals without legal status to be in the USA are not entitled to constitutional protection. Hence, ICE can enter without a warrant, or they can hold you without a warrant. as long as you fail to identify yourself, you remain under reasonable, articulable suspicion of being in the country illegally. Thus, the federal agency tasked with removing individuals who are in the country illegally now have the legal authority to detain you until they can confirm that you are not in the country illegally, but have legal status here, whether it be permanent residency, an active visa, or citizenship. So you see all these people that are being held, it wasn't allowed to call an attorney. Of course, you're not allowed to call an attorney. You're suspected of being a foreign national without legal status in the United States. You don't get no constitutional rights. You don't get to call no fucking lawyer. You're getting a plane ticket out of here as soon as we figure out which country you're from, or we can just let you pick one. Or you can tell us who the fuck you are, so we know that you're an American citizen and we can let you go. So these people that end up being detained by ICE, they literally do it to themselves. And it's been the case consistently. Every single story we heard about American citizens being detained for extended periods of time by ICE, what's always the story? Failure to identify. And in this case, failure to identify actually does apply constitutionally, because ICE's job is to remove people in the country illegally. Thus, anybody in this country is subject to reasonable, articulable suspicion of being in the country illegally. Thus, ICE can stop and ID anybody they fucking want because they have reasonable, articulable suspicion. And they were given that reasonable, articulable suspicion when Joe Biden opened up the borders and allowed millions and millions of foreign nationals to infiltrate our cities. Sorry. That's the way it is. So even if they want to cry Constitution, 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 ICE is not acting outside of the Constitution. It's just these morons that get themselves detained by ICE don't understand where the limits of ICE's authority. Thus, they subject themselves voluntarily to ICE's authority by refusing to do something as simple as identify, which automatically lets you off the hook with ICE. They can't touch you anymore. And if they already identified you as a citizen and they continue to detain you, that is now unlawful detainment. They open themselves up to a lawsuit. So you actually stand to gain if you identify yourself, because if they want to be vindictive, and even after they know you're a citizen, they want to hold you, you're going to get paid. They're going to pay you. Once you file that lawsuit, they will pay. They will settle out of court. They'll cut you a check and send you on your way. But when you try to play tough guy, and I know my rights, ICE don't give a fuck about your rights, because ICE's job is to target people who have no rights. You stupid bastard. That's their fucking job. So unless you're willing to identify yourself as an American citizen who does have rights, guess what? To ICE, you're not legal in this country. You're not entitled to any rights. Period. Period. But you see, people don't understand how the law works. It's based on ignorance, because I'm just some guy on the internet. I'm nobody special. I never went to law school. I just read a lot and I study a lot. And I'm very deeply involved in the legal practice. Well, not the legal practice, because then I would have to be a barred attorney or whatever, but I'm very involved in the legal system because I got sick and tired of seeing people get screwed over by the legal system. And I got sick and tired of seeing people have their rights violated simply because they didn't know what their rights were. I got sick and tired of seeing people fuck themselves up with the police because they didn't understand how to maneuver the system. So I'm here to help teach you some of that shit. Because how can you thrive in a nation of laws if you don't understand how the laws work, how they're applied, and what laws especially are on the books to protect you? How can you thrive in a city? I mean, in a country like that? You can't. You'll be overtaken. You'll be overrun. You'll be overwhelmed. You won't stand a chance. Hang on a second. I'm about to heat my food up and sit it on the heater. Warm that motherfucker right up. That's right. Now, on to the story of the night. Man shot and killed by federal agents in Minneapolis. DHS says he was armed. Ooh. Oh, shit. Here we go. Here we go. So this is from CNN. So, of course, they're going to give you the slanted version of it. But this is what they know. It says, what we know. Deadly shooting. A Minneapolis man was shot and killed by federal agents today. According to city officials, the man is believed to be a U.S. citizen, police said. You see how they keep stressing this U.S. citizen part? If you fight with ICE officers, they don't give a fuck if you're a U.S. citizen or not. You are an enemy combatant at that point. DHS says agents defended themselves. The Department of Homeland Security said the man had a gun and approached Border Patrol officers during a targeted operation. He violently resisted when officers tried to disarm him, and an agent shot him in self-defense, according to DHS. Okay. State and local outcry. Here comes the propaganda. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey said videos show masked agents pummeling one of our constituents and shooting him to death. See how he's making it sound? And he denounced the impunity of federal agents operating in the city. But he won't denounce the impunity of the scammers. He won't denounce the impunity of the illegal aliens. He won't denounce any of that, but he'll denounce the feds that are stopping that. He's obviously on the payroll. Governor Walz called on President Donald Trump to pull ICE out of Minneapolis and allow Minnesota to lead an investigation into the shooting. Well, obviously, the Minnesota courts have demonstrated complete ineptitude and a lack of impartiality. So there's no way that the crooked bought and paid for Somali state of Minnesota is going to handle any investigations involving federal operations. No fucking way. Because Minnesota handled the investigations about the Somali scamming ass daycares, and they found no wrongdoing. But DHS investigated the Somali daycare scandal and found 80 fucking indictments. So what's that tell you? Days of protest. This marks the third shooting by federal agents in Minneapolis this month, including the high-profile case of Renee Good, and comes amid days of mass protests over the Trump administration's immigration crackdown in the Twin Cities. And again, what is the reason for the mass protests? Simply to buy the scammers time, buy the illegal aliens time, buy the sleeper cells time to evade capture, provide cover. That's what it's about. Provide cover in order to keep the gravy train going, create chaos and possibly death if they could in order to get Trump to stand down. But what they don't realize, where they miscalculated, is Trump is not a guy that stands down, especially when the law is on his side. And right now, not only is the law on his side, but all the conditions, all the legal conditions are being met for a complete, total military takeover. Beyond Elemental said it correct. If civics was still taught, people would realize the president is just enforcing the laws lawmakers wrote, but have been living above. Exactly. Now, I made a statement just now about conditions being met for a military takeover, right? So let me do something really quick and see if Google will reveal this to me. Conditions necessary for martial law. Let's see what that says. Martial law is an extreme temporary measure justified only by actual necessity when civilian governments, courts, and law enforcement are completely unable to function due to war, insurrection, or severe widespread civil unrest. It involves the military assuming control, often suspending civil liberties to restore order. And what do we have in Minneapolis, ladies and gentlemen? We have government, the mayor and the governor. We have the courts with the crooked judges, and we have the cuckolded police chief standing down, law enforcement. They're unable to function, not due to actual war, but severe, widespread civil unrest at the very least. So the conditions are being met. And every element within the Minnesota government is now showing and proving themselves to be unable to function. So the bullet points here is total failure of civil power. Martial law only justified when civilian authority is entirely absent or incapacitated. Well, that's what's happening. Actual necessity. The situation must be an extreme emergency where the rule of law cannot be maintained by local police or the National Guard. And what do we have? Didn't Tim Walz just call out the National Guard? And what's happening? Still riots, right? And who's hanging out with the National Guard? The Minneapolis police are popping up with the National Guard again. So they're coming out of their holes now. But the civil unrest still continues. Geographical limitation. It is restricted to the specific localized area of active conflict or chaos. Minneapolis, the Twin Cities. Functional courts. In the U.S. Supreme Court precedent, in the U.S. Supreme Court precedent suggests that if civilian courts are open and functioning, military courts cannot take over. And this is why the military lawyers are going there, because they're going there to make the determination as to whether the civilian courts are functioning. Because based on these recent rulings, it doesn't appear as if they're functioning. They're politicized. Authorized proclamation. In the U.S., it is typically declared by a state governor or the president during crises like riots or natural disasters. Martial law is not explicitly defined in the U.S. Constitution, but has been declared historically by state governors more frequently than by the president. It is difficult for using the military it is distinct from using the military to assist authorities, Insurrection Act, as martial law replaces civilian control with military rule. You see? And that's what I was telling you guys. The stage is being set in Minneapolis to replace civilian government with military government. Because once military government takes over, military police on the streets, military courts, military prosecutors under military law. Military is the only way, and Minneapolis is showing it. And Arizona is showing it too, because their attorney general is talking that dumb shit too. So they should keep talking that dumb shit, because then the military is really going to have grounds to take over. Now, I just thought I should share this with you guys, because the internet is undefeated. I did not create this meme. I just simply found it and propagated it, right? How do you think ICE is doing in Minnesota? Pretty good. And that is fucking, is it too soon? Is it too soon? That is fucking hilarious. Because this guy's his last name is Pretty, and her last name is Good. And wouldn't you know, they're both homosexuals, which means they're both sexual deviants. They're both stark raving mad liberals. This one actually used her kids as a personal ashtray to put cigarettes out on. That's why she lost custody of her two older kids. And this guy right here dresses like a bitch on the weekends, apparently. Like, this guy's a fucking weirdo. He's like, he looks all cracked out and cucky. Like he looks like a cool dude if you sell him drugs and shit, but like any normal working man would have no business hanging out with a dude like this. Like, honestly, he looks like he hangs out in parks behind elementary schools by himself. That's what he looks like to me. Just looks weird. But here's another one of these cucky half of fags. Look at him pursing his lips in his mugshot. Like, he just got to let the world know that, well, up the poop chute is where it goes. Justin Navoa was just arrested in Columbus, Ohio for threatening to kill ICE agents. He allegedly wrote on X, "Can't wait to shoot these pussy ICE agents and retarded MAGA maggots." Police discovered body armor, guns, and ammo when executing a search warrant. He can face up to 10 years in prison. Told you, these people are psychotic. Angel Caraway says, question, why they aren't there calling for a curfew in these states? Wouldn't that be the logical thing to do? Angela Caraway. Yes, under normal circumstances, that would be. And by under normal circumstances, that would be if the federal government actually had the assistance of the local government, but the riots were just so out of control that the police were overwhelmed, right? Then they would call for the curfew, have the local police enforce it, along with the National Guard, and the civilian courts remain intact. The civilian local governance, which means the mayor and the governor and everybody, their positions remain intact. But what's different about Minnesota is the fact that the Tim Walz, who holds the position of governor, and Jacob Frey, who holds the position of Minneapolis mayor, along with the courts, are demonstrating now that they have a political bias. They are operating in opposition to the federal government. In other words, impeding the federal government. And it ain't just the rioters on the street who hold this position, but it stems from the governorship all the way down to the rioters on the street. So in other words, a normal martial law situation like the LA riots, for example, the LAPD were working with the military, not working with the crowds and standing down and allowing the mobs to take over the city, so to speak. They were actually, once the military came in, before they got overwhelmed, they were actually trying to stop the riots and preserve the peace. But once they got overwhelmed and were forced to retreat, then the military came in. But the local government was not fomenting and encouraging the violence. You see what I'm saying? But in this case, you have the local government, the politicians fomenting, encouraging the violence. Then you have the courts facilitating the violence by allowing these people to walk free. And you also have the rioters on the street. So the whole system is corrupted and in league with the chaos and with the rioters, which means not only is it just a street level takeover by the military, but it has to be a comprehensive, all-encompassing, total takeover in terms of suspending the local government and establishing military governance until order can be restored. You said, got it. Thank you. Glad I can assist you with that question. And any other questions that anybody wants to ask, feel free. I'll try to keep glancing at the chat. Lies That Bind over on Rumble. Let me take this freakzoid off the screen. My bad. Excuse me. Lies That Bind says, question. So if Trump wants military martial law, then he could use agent provocateurs to pretend to be shot in combination with ICE to cause rioting and implement martial law. Is Minnesota's state government fomenting rioting by manipulating people to interfere with ICE officers to make Trump look bad and ultimately keep the Democrats in power? Well, to your first question, Lies That Bind. If Trump wants martial law, then he could use agent provocateurs. But here's the thing. That would be cheating. Trump doesn't win by cheating, right? And he doesn't really need agent provocateurs because there's enough brainwashed wind-up toys out there that the left's got out there running around that they're going to do the job for him. You know, it's like you set the trap, but you don't need a fake rat to, go investigate the trap to attract other rats. You just put the trap down because the rats instinctively are going to go to the cheese, right? So that's essentially what's happening. So there would be no need for agent provocateurs. In fact, Trump would rather there not be a martial law takeover and it goes smoothly like it's going in other cities where the mayors and the governors are not encouraging people to take to the streets, and they're actually discouraging people from taking to the streets, and the local police are actually arresting people who are impeding the feds. That's what we would rather have happen, because through these deportations and these federal investigations, eventually the local government and the judges would be taken down. But because they're so bold and out in the open with it, now it's got to be done this way. They played the cards, and now this is the hand we were dealt. Now, is Minnesota state government fomenting rioting by manipulating people to interfere with ICE to make Trump look bad and ultimately keep Democrats in power? Yes. Yes. You notice they've been the one stirring up all the chaos. They've been the one encouraging all the riots and all the violence. And when the violence gets violent and people get their asses shot off, they're the first ones in the media talking about how ICE being there is a problem, but not them encouraging people to be out in the streets being a problem. You see what I'm saying? So yes, they're definitely fomenting the violence for sure. Now, for context, this is the individual that was in the situation with ICE today in Minneapolis. So that's your boy right there that got his ass shot off. Look at him. Fucking crazy person. Now, you see, if the mainstream media were to show this picture of him rather than showing those, wannabe masculine, cucky looking half a fag pictures of him and saying, oh, he was an ICU nurse and all this dumb shit. If they actually showed this picture of him, this would show the mentality that took over him that day when that shooting happened. The sexual deviant demon that's causing him to dress and behave this way. Then more people would realize, you know what? Maybe ICE had a point, because this motherfucker was crazy. But speaking of the politicians fomenting the violence, Benny Johnson tweets, Tim Walz, just a few days ago, was climbing on the gate of his mansion, urging protesters to keep causing trouble and fighting ICE. An armed man just attacked agents and got killed. See how that works? Minnesota officials are fueling this. You see? It's them. They're putting the battery in these people's backs because they know that these people are dumb enough to go out there and get themselves hurt. That's what it's about. That's what they've been doing the entire time. You know what I'm saying? This is what they've been doing the entire time. And then when people get hurt, they turn around and act like it wasn't their rhetoric that was the problem. They turn around and act like, oh, it's the Trump administration. No, it's you motherfuckers. If y'all would just shut the fuck up and tell people to stay home and stay out the fucking way, this wouldn't happen. People wouldn't be dying. But you see, they want people to die. They want people to go to jail. They want people to be agitators so ICE can start using more heavy-handed tactics, so they can keep making a scene. They can keep playing the victim and pretending as if ICE is so wrong. And this is why the stage has to be set for a complete martial law takeover. This is why. Because this is a total, absolute insurrection from the top down. These Democrats are fucking crazy. Anything for $1, yo. Anything for $1. That's why they're all sexual deviants and they whore themselves out to the politicians and shit. Or to the lobbyists, I mean. Guys, we got 94 watching on YouTube and 79 likes. 79 likes, 94 watching. What's that? 25 short? No, hell no. 15 short? Yeah, that's 15 short. Hit the like button. We can get 100 people. We're this close to getting 100 people in the show. And we haven't even gotten to the video of the shooting yet, because I got a few more videos on Instagram that I wanted to go through with y'all too. So hit the like button, man. What y'all doing, man? Y'all playing. So Nick Sorter says the armed man who fought Border Patrol and was subsequently shot this morning in Minneapolis has died, per the city of Minneapolis. They're going to burn this freaking place to the ground. Pray hard for our agents today. So this is when shit started heating up. So here's some Google AI facts about it. On January 24th, 2026, federal authorities confirmed that Alex Preddy, that's his name, Alex Preddy, a 37-year-old ICU nurse and part-time transgenital, I love how they always leave that part out, killed by Border Patrol agents in Minneapolis, was in possession of a handgun. The following details regarding the firearm have been established by investigators and local officials. Weapon type. Preddy was carrying a Sig Sauer 9mm semi-automatic pistol. The Department of Homeland Security released a photograph of the weapon, which experts identified as a P320 AXG combat model featuring a threaded barrel and customized grips. Legal status. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara and Governor Tim Walz confirmed that Preddy was a lawful gun owner with a valid Minnesota permit to carry. So now all of a sudden, the Democrats approve of the Second Amendment. That's crazy. Ammunition. DHS reported that Preddy had 2 loaded magazines on his person at the time of the shooting. Controversy over use. There is a sharp dispute between federal and local accounts regarding whether the gun was brandished. DHS claimed federal officers allege Preddy approached agents with the handgun and violently resisted when they tried to disarm him. Now, you see, here's the problem with the DHS claim, and I gotta take it there. When they said he approached them with the handgun, they should have specified that the handgun was holstered. Or they should have said approach with a handgun on his person. They should have specified that because Preddy did not approach them with the gun in his hand. I have to say that. But once he approached him and the scuffle ensued because they were attempting to arrest him, if you watch the video, then the whole issue of the gun comes up because that's when DHS discovered that he was armed. Because if you listen in the video close enough, you can hear them say gun, gun. And then a couple seconds later, the shots. Because when they discovered the gun from different video angles during the scuffle, he was attempting to reach for it, and that's why they shot him. Now, in another video angle, it shows a DHS agent before Preddy was shot appearing to grab the gun and, you know, take it away from the scuffle, like turn away from the scuffle and like kind of speed walk away with it. Then you hear the gunshots. So there's a lot of things, there's a lot of moving parts to this case. So we're going to look at as many angles as we possibly can and try to make the best determination. But the fact of the matter is, whether that agent disarmed Preddy before he was shot or not, the fact is you get what you're looking for. You run up on men with guns with your gun on you and you end up getting shot, whether it's before or after they take your gun off you, that's on you. At least you brought a gun to a gunfight. Bystander video. Multiple videos of the incident show Preddy holding a cell phone, not a weapon, in the moments before he was wrestled to the ground and shot. Some analyses of the footage suggest an agent may have removed the weapon from Preddy's holster before the fatal shots were fired. So we're going to look at that and we're going to closely examine that in the video. So don't worry, we're not going to cut it short. Just don't forget to share the video, hit the like button. We made it all the way to 99 people. I'm starting to think YouTube is stifling my numbers. I'm really starting to believe that because we made it all the way to 99 people and just dropped right back down to 94. They won't even let me get 100 people in my fucking live stream. And I'm pretty sure there's more than 100 people watching right now. But we still only have 86 likes. So we got to get the likes up. So the Justice Department to interrogate Tim Walz and 4 other top Minnesota Democrats. Now, they're not saying who these top Minnesota Democrats are specifically, but I believe one would be Jacob Frey because he was just subpoenaed. I believe Attorney General Keith Ellison. And it could be the police chief of Minneapolis, too. But these are just my guesses. We don't know for sure. But what we do know is the legal ball is rolling on these guys, and the interrogation is not about the riots either. That's the other thing. It's about the welfare fraud. That's what that's about. So here's them hyping it up even more. Governor Tim Walz, I just spoke with the White House after another horrific shooting by federal agents this morning. Minnesota has had it. This is sickening. Well, tell your fucking people to get out the street and leave ICE alone, Tim Walz. You see what I mean? They keep hyping the people up and then pretending as if ICE is wrong for defending themselves when they could just say, stay out the streets, stay out of the way, mind your business, let ICE do their jobs. And it's these same white liberal cucks that are trying to get black people now to get out there and sacrifice themselves because they would love nothing more than to have a dead nigger that they could blame on Trump. That's what they're looking for. But they keep getting all these cuckolded white perverts because that's who believes the propaganda the most. That's who's the most dedicated to the cause. The president must end this operation, pull the thousands of violent, untrained officers out of Minnesota now. So the protesters and the rioters that are running up on ICE agents with guns and getting their ass shot off, they're not violent and untrained. The actual trained officers are violent and untrained. You see this bullshit? Yeah, Tim Walz is going to military prison. This shit cannot be allowed to slide. See, we just made it to 99 people on the show again, and then it dropped back down to 98. They will not let me get 100 people in my fucking live stream. That's crazy. That's crazy. But you know what we could do? We could get $100 on that Cash App if y'all all throw in on the pot. So hit the Cash App, hit the PayPal, support the show. Maybe that's what got them mad, because y'all be donating and they don't want me monetized. That's why they mad. Motherfuckers. Let me get to 99 twice. See, they playing with me, man. They playing. At 9:05 a.m., this is Homeland Security's statement on the incident. At 9:05 a.m. Central Time, a DHS law enforcement officer, as DHS law enforcement officers were conducting a targeted operation in Minneapolis against an illegal alien wanted for violent assault, an individual approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun seen here. So they show the picture of the gun. I'll show you the picture of the gun too. But see, I don't like when they say it that way because it sounds like there's like, I understand what they mean, but to the general public, to somebody who has no idea what actually took place or hasn't seen the video, it sounds like he walked up on him with the gun in his hand. And I don't like that because they don't have to say it that way to give it that spin. And I don't like that. The officers, because that gives the left fuel to say, see, they're trying to make it sound like he ran up on him with the gun, but he didn't. But he did have the gun on him. So they should have said, carrying a concealed 9mm weapon or some shit. You know what I'm saying? The officers attempted to disarm the suspect, but the armed suspect violently resisted. More details on the armed struggle are forthcoming. See, that was slick how they did that too. Saying they attempted to disarm the suspect. The armed suspect violently resisted. Because now they're making it seem like he walked up with the gun in his hand. They tried to grab the gun out of his hand, and he started fighting them with a gun in his hand, and they were fighting for the gun in their hand. That's the picture they're painting. And I don't think that's exactly accurate to what the video shows. Even though he was armed, and he did violently resist. So it's like they're teetering on the edge of spinning it, but they're still being truthful at the same time. I just don't like the wording because it can easily be, it's too easily misinterpreted, I guess. Fearing for his life and the lives and safety of fellow officers, an agent fired defensive shots. Medics on scene immediately delivered medical aid to the subject, but was pronounced dead at the scene. The suspect also had 2 magazines and no ID. This looks like a situation where an individual wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement. Well, that's a pretty easy presumption for them to make now because there's several cases, just like the one I showed you earlier, of individuals on social media who have access, who have weapons and access to weapons, openly and publicly declaring their desire to do harm to ICE agents. And now we have a situation where an individual armed with a firearm engages in a scuffle with ICE agents. You see what I'm saying? So it's like all the violent rhetoric and the idiots online that are saying all this stupid shit, they're not realizing that they're giving ICE the green light to really go out there and hurt people now. Especially if you're found to be in possession of a weapon, they will shoot your ass. Because they can't trust that you're going to surrender that weapon now. Because these people have already demonstrated themselves to be violent. They're constantly spewing rhetoric of a desire to do violence on the internet. And now they're approaching officers in the street with weapons on them. Like, I mean, put two and two together. Anybody with common sense would draw the same conclusion and say, you know what? If a motherfucker run up on me with the gun after these people been making all these threats online, I'm going to clap his ass. And it's the same situation with the vehicle rammings, right? Where their training manuals instruct them to use their vehicles as weapons to ram the ICE agents. And then Renee Good uses her vehicle as a weapon to ram an ICE agent. The same ICE agent who, I guess, prior to that, was rammed by a vehicle and severely injured. How you think that's going to end? Oh, these motherfuckers are trained to use their vehicles as weapons. Well, I got my weapon too. And then next thing you know, drive, baby, drive. Pop, pop, pop. Now she's dead. See what I'm saying? All because these politicians are acting like going out in the streets and impeding ICE is the right thing to do when it's the worst thing you can do. About 200 rioters arrived at the scene and began to obstruct and assault law enforcement on the scene. Crowd control measures were deployed for the safety of the public and law enforcement. Look at this. They keep letting me get my my live viewer number to 99, but it won't let me pass 99. That shit is crazy to me. That shit is crazy. I've never seen anything like it. And we're up to 93 likes, so we should be at like 120 people. That's just crazy. Like they just won't let this fly. You know why? Because if they're all politically aligned, they're all in on the scheme. So this is an image of the actual weapon. Pretty nice gun. Very nice optic. I was never really a fan. Like, I understand the optics and the ease of like target acquisition with the optics, but I just don't know. I just was never able to really find a good holster that I would be confident enough would not only hold my weapon properly, but protect the optic at the same time. So I never really messed with the optics before. I generally, when it comes to handguns, just prefer to use the iron sights. Plus, if you're in an apocalyptic situation where you can't get a replacement battery for your optic and you spent your whole life owning that pistol, learning to shoot with the optic, and you were just a boss with it, right? How the fuck you going to use it when the battery's dead and you can't replace the battery? So, good old iron sights, man. Good old iron sights. And when it comes to the long guns, good old ACOG. No battery power necessary. Now, here was Donald Trump's take on the situation. This is the gunman's gun loaded with 2 additional full magazines and ready to go. What is that all about? You see, the no ID thing makes that guy suspicious too, because every legal gun owner knows that if you're going to conceal carry your weapon, you better have your concealed carry permit and some ID to prove who you are. Every good gun owner knows that. And it's normally criminals that walk around with no ID. So that raises a lot of suspicion too. And you know what else we're not hearing from the media? What this guy was saying on his social media page. You notice that? We're not hearing it from DHS. And we're not hearing it from the fake news and the Democrats either. But I can probably bet you that on his social media page, there's probably a lot of anti-ICE rhetoric and sentiments of like wanting to commit violence against ICE, because that tends to be generally where these people's minds are when they're on social media acting out their deepest, darkest fantasies. But let's continue on. What is that all about? Where are the local police? Why aren't they allowed to protect ICE officers? The mayor and governor called them off. It is stated that many of these police were not allowed to do their job, that ICE had to protect themselves. Not an easy thing to do. Why does Ilhan Omar, yeah, then he goes into Ilhan Omar, but right here, stating that the mayor and the governor called off the police and the police not being allowed to do their job, right? Again, this is setting the stage for the military takeover by demonstrating that the local government is dysfunctional. You see the buildup. So we've gone through every step, right, throughout this show of all the conditions being met for a military takeover. And here's Donald Trump basically reiterating the governmental collapse of Minneapolis and Minnesota. So why does Ilhan Omar have $34 million in her account? And where are the tens of billions of dollars that have been stolen from the once great state of Minnesota? We are there because of massive monetary fraud, with billions of dollars missing and illegal criminals that were allowed to infiltrate the state through the Democrats' open border policy. We want the money back, and we want it back now. Those fraudsters who stole the money are going to jail where they belong. This is no different than a really big bank robbery. Much of what you're witnessing is a cover-up for this theft and fraud. Ooh, now Trump is really telling it like it is right here, because that's exactly what the fuck it is. The mayor and the governor are inciting insurrection with their pompous, dangerous, and arrogant rhetoric. Instead, these sanctimonious political fools should be looking for the billions of dollars that has been stolen from the people of Minnesota and the United States of America. Let our ICE patriots do their job. 12,000 illegal alien criminals, many of them violent, have been arrested and taken out of Minnesota. If they were still there, you would see something far worse than you're witnessing today. Very strong words from the president. But I understand why he's saying it the way that he's saying it, because, again, he's establishing grounds for a total military takeover. Be sure to post this to anyone that says he didn't pull his P320. You can even see the dovetail on it. So this is a screenshot from one of the videos, and this is the guy when they were putting him down on the ground. And some people are saying allegedly this is the gun in his hand, like he had already drew the weapon. And here's a close-up of it. And that little hump on top of it looks like the red dot sight. It kind of does look like the gun. But again, it's too blurry to say for sure. But in this screenshot here, this was when they got him down on the ground. And I believe after the first shot was fired, you see his arm right there, right? Check this out. And his arm is now behind him. So he's reaching back. And it appears as if he's reaching for a weapon. But in this shot, this happened after he was shot, right? So in the case where he didn't reach for the weapon until he was shot, then they can't say the shooting was justified, because he was reaching to the weapon for his weapon in response to them using their weapon. Now that shooting could be called into question. Personally, he was a fucking pervert, and I think he should have been shot for that alone, but that's just me. But other video angles seem to suggest something else, right? So let's take a look at the video angle that I have currently, which is this one. And I am sharing the sound. I hope you guys can see it well enough. I kind of filtered it a little bit, made it lighter, and I increased the sharpness of the video just so we could see more detail. Because the other video angles, they're like, in the regular daylight, it's pretty dark, pretty dim and shadowy. So I just did those tweaks to the lighting so we can get a better view of what's taking place. So let's go ahead and run this joint. So that's him right there. That's GI Cucky right there. So let's go. What the fuck is wrong with you? So that's when the ICE officers moved them out of the street. Now, here, when the camera goes down, there's another angle that shows more of what he did in the street. But there he is approaching, and there's ICE. There's a woman, a protester in the street. This is the ICE agent coming to shove the woman out of the street, and he's running over there as if he's going to help the woman. So that's when he approached ICE. What the fuck is wrong with you? Okay. ICE shoved this woman. The ICE agent shoved this woman out of the street. Soldier Cucky, Corporal Cucky right here. He's got his arm around the woman because he's her protector, right? He's the man. He's the big bad savior. But watch this coward shit he does. Watch this. Get the fuck out the street. ICE agent shoves the woman out of the street. A little heavy-handed with that, but I understand. You keep telling them get out the street and they won't move. You shove their ass down. Fuck them. Okay. Now this guy, he's getting the ICE agent is now pepper spraying Sergeant Slong Sucker, right? Pepper spray, pepper spray, pepper spray. Shoves him out of the street. And he's trying to pull the woman back into the street because, you got to resist ICE, right? So now the ICE agents decide, we're going to arrest your you bitch ass, right? So they grab him to arrest him. Look at this. And as they're pulling him away, look what this coward is doing. He's trying to drag well, she's not that innocent, but he's trying to drag the same woman he was, or one of the women he was pretending to protect. Now he's trying to drag her into the melee that ICE is about to unleash on his ass. What a coward. That is some coward shit. But of course, a man that pretends to be a woman in his spare time, well, you kind of expect coward shit like that from him. But look at this. So they grab him. They're scuffling with him now. They still don't know that he has the gun on him. People, what the fuck is wrong with you? Honestly. You hear him? The ICE agents, they're like, gun, gun, gun. And see this guy right here? He's now drawing his weapon. This guy right here. See his hand? He's drawing his weapon. This guy next to him, he's the one in the other video that looks like he grabs the guy's gun before these other ICE agents even know that he's disarmed. See, that's when he turns to run away with the gun in his hand, and this guy shoots him. So let's watch the whole thing again. And then I'm going to have to jump over to Instagram so we can look at the other angles. What the fuck is wrong with you? People, what the fuck is wrong with you? Honestly. That is some crazy shit to see, ain't it? The whistles, though, I can't stand the fucking whistles. The whistles are irritating as fuck. These motherfuckers with their whistles. I see why ICE is out there whooping their ass. Fucking irritating ass whistles, man. All right, let me jump to my Instagram and see if I can pull these other angles up for y'all, so we can really examine this shit. And guys, don't forget to hit the Cash App, hit the PayPal, hit the Venmo, support the show, support the show, support the show. All right, Citizen Man. I don't know why I always have to like search my own page to find the saved reels. It upsets me. But it's all good. All right. Gotta go all the way down to find them. There's a lot of them. Okay, there we go. There we go. There's one, there's two, there's three, there's four. Okay, I think there's 4 videos. So let's do that. Share. Oh shit. I just stopped screen share. Share. Instagram. Let you motherfuckers know who I am. Yeah, they are bat excrement crazy, Barnes. Most definitely. And that's who the Democrats are weaponizing. They're weaponizing the crazies. All right, here we go. Damn, I hate how small it is, though. Okay, this one's slowed down. Let me see if I can put the sound on. All right, so this is slow motion. Hang on. Let me go back to StreamYard. Am I sharing the sound? I thought I was sharing the sound because that video definitely had sound. Okay. Yeah, I am sharing the sound. What the fuck? Hang on. So it's some bullshit. Okay, we're going to go full screen. Okay. I guess there's no sound on this one. Are we fucking sharing? Man, what the hell? Okay, there we go. Instagram, share. I'm over here playing the video. Y'all can't even see shit. Can y'all see it now? Okay, yeah, y'all can see it now. All right, here we go. Now, this is the slow motion video. They're on top of him. See this guy here with the jacket on. He's got his hand where the holster is at. And it looks like he grabs the weapon. Then they say gun, gun. This guy draws his gun. And pow. Pow, pow, pow. And everybody jumps off him. And he goes down. There's his hand behind him right there, reaching for the gun. That's him. He's reaching behind him. And then they shoot his ass down.
Of this incident, this ICE agent goes up, he disarms the person they're detaining. The rest don't see that. The rest don't know that this man's been disarmed.
See, that's him grabbing the gun right there.
When he then reaches for a gun, there's nothing there. The others don't know that, and they actually shoot him. Just a few seconds after he was disarmed. But your man walked away and I don't think he said anything. Gun in hand. Just walks away there. And at that very moment, it looks like your man reaches down to grab something. All these people here deserve better. That man should never be in a position where he thinks it's justified or it's the moral thing to do to go out and stand in the way of these ICE agents doing their job. I've watched.
Yeah, all for nothing. Exactly, Leonard. All for nothing. Now this is what they're turning Minneapolis into, a war zone. It is bullshit. Just chaos in the streets.
Go.
Soldiers of Sodomy. That's what we should call this. Making a movie called Soldiers of Sodomy. It's a documentary of Antifa. Okay. Pepper spray. Yeah, you see, when he was getting pepper sprayed, he was reaching in his waistband for something. It looked like he was reaching for something. They must have saw that shit. That's why they grabbed him to arrest him. He's holding on to the woman. Oh, coward.
People.
Yeah, we'll make an Antifa movie called it Soldiers of Sodomy. Oh my God. All right. All the rest of this is for another show. Soldiers of Sodomy. The story of Antifa. That shit actually almost sounds heroic. Almost. Now, since we're here, I guess we can have a little fun with it. So these are the retarded motherfuckers that are leading these are the heroes of the anti-ICE movement. Look at this fucker.
Looking for ICE agents, trying to do my part, trying to protect my illegal criminal fellow human beings.
You hear this motherfucker? Like you would think this is an act and they're just playing. Like these are real people that are really serious about this shit, but they're crazy. Look at the grown ass man, gotta be in his 40s or 50s, severely overweight, head full of blue hair, big ass cowering in his nose, and talk like a biatch.
Safe from ICE? Because this is ridiculous what's going on. Oh, what is this? We have an ICE agent here. Get my whistle ready. ICE, run for your life, run.
This has to be parody, but this is these people that watch this shit. Watch this shit. This is a real one right here. Check this shit out.
So we're out in the community being patrollers and observers, just had an interaction with ICE, pulled up alongside my vehicle, rolled down his window with his face mask on, waved at me, and then did this, I see you. They like to play games. We're moving on to check out some other vulnerable community spaces. This is what we can do. Got my whistle. These are what our days look like, friends.
Oh my gosh, I thought this was a parody. It's not a parody. White liberal women are literally driving around their neighborhoods blowing whistles anytime they see somebody they think might be ICE. Look, normally I'm all for women staying home, but speaking for sane women out there who are embarrassed by this behavior, please go get a job, join a book club, volunteer at a soup kitchen. I don't know, figure out some other way to spend your time, get a purpose.
Right. That's the thing. They don't have no purpose. They all done divorced their husbands, or their husbands done divorced them. So they ain't got nothing better to do. They living off child support and alimony money, and they're just bored, and they're trying to play hero and make a name for themselves. And you know what I'm saying? Like that's what they're LARPers, live action role players. That's what they are. That's what the fuck they are. Look at this shit. This is the dude that one of the dudes that led the charge running up in the church. This is that Dusty Shermhead dude that I told y'all, like, you believe in these anti-ICE protests, these are the people that you're citing. These are your allies right here. Let me hold on. Hold the fuck up. Let me just go back a tad here. These are your fucking allies, okay? Let me just remind you one time really quick. Oh my goodness. Oh my God. Yeah. These are your allies, friends. These are your comrades in battle. These motherfuckers right here. All you anti-ICE people out there, that's who you're siding with. All you people out there that's trying to push the propaganda about ICE coming for black people and all this shit, that's where all this shit is coming from. These cuckolded weirdos that have nothing better to do, and they do a bunch of drugs, and they're whacked out of their fucking minds, and all they do is listen to mainstream media and get lied to. They refuse to acknowledge facts and even acknowledge reality. And this is where all that rhetoric is coming from. You know, the same people that want you to hate Trump, these are your allies in your hatred for Trump. These are the people that would love for you to hate Trump. These are the people that have you convinced that Donald Trump is the bad guy. That's who the fuck you're siding with. Just so you're aware. You stupid sons of man. Listen to this motherfucker right here. Listen to this stupid shit. Listen, white man. Ain't no black person asked you to stand up for nothing. Okay? And I don't need a sherm head to stand up for me. I'm perfectly capable of standing up for myself, sir. And you notice how how these white liberals, they lump in blacks and Latinos together, when most black people would tell you blacks and Latinos are not allies in anything, because the Latinos want to be the new white man. The Latinos want to take over America. And in a lot of cases, they have, where the white liberals have had political control. They've opened the door and allowed Latinos to take over everything. And now they're trying to expand that program that they ran in LA around the rest of the country, and they've been successful doing it. And they use these other white liberals to pretend to advocate and speak for black people, like black people can't speak for their fucking selves. And it's always some cracked out sherm head like this motherfucker. Look at him with his Biggie t-shirt, with a Biggie t-shirt on. Somebody, yo, I hope a bunch of brothers find his racist white ass walking down the street with that shirt on, beat the crap out of him, and rip it off of him, because he does not deserve to wear that. We care about humanity. We care about the Constitution. No, the fuck you don't. Shut the fuck up, you old crackhead. Now the white crackhead wearing the Biggie t-shirt is quoting Fred Hampton. What a disgrace. Look at these motherfuckers behind him clap. Look at these sellout ass bitches behind them clapping. You see what's going on here, though? You see what's going on here? Every time you have these movements, there's always some white liberal cuck up front and a bunch of black women behind them, because black men know better. It ain't no black man gonna listen to that cracked out motherfucker. Name me one black man with a pair of balls and his masculinity still intact that would follow this guy's lead. You see what I'm saying? But once they get the women to follow him, the men are going to follow. That's the idea. That's why the Democratic Party is always putting these liberal black women in these positions of power, because they believe, they feel like the black men are going to follow along with what the women say, because, well, the black community tends to be more matriarchal than patriarchal. But they still got to use the good old white man, because don't nobody wield the power in America like the white man, right? So use the white man with the Biggie shirt quoting Fred Hampton. You know what I'm saying? And this is all part of their push to try to get black people out in the street. But black people ain't playing that shit. Just these couple of sellouts that are all in on it and being paid handsomely to do it. So all you black folks that are questioning and that are at least smart enough to be in question as to whether, you know, these ICE operations are to our benefit or to our detriment, just remember, the people that are telling you the ICE operations are to your detriment, this cracked out cuckolded sherm head right here, and this fairy motherfucker right here. Just remember those two. Just remember those two. When you're asking yourself that question as to if I were to pick a side, which side would I pick? Just remember the anti-ICE side, that's who's among your ranks, and that's who's among your ranks. Just remember that. Just always remember that. Don't ever let that thought slip your mind, ever. Okay? Because that tells you all you need to know right there. That tells you all you need to know about who's really on your side and who's just there to manipulate you. What the fuck just happened? Okay, there we go. You know what I'm saying? Just always keep that in mind. Always remember that. These are your heroes of the anti-ICE movement. This is why, again, I could never get down from the minute Trump ran for office and I started seeing the types of people coming out in the street with the anti-Trump narrative. And I started looking at all these black homosexual males they were putting up on mainstream media, these white liberal women and these black feminist women putting up on social media, on mainstream media, to try to tell me that Trump bad and I should listen to them. That was one of the factors that made me lean towards Trump and start examining Trump a little closer, because in my mind, as a straight masculine black man, I could not bring myself to follow the lead of a bunch of liberal whores and a bunch of black male fags. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Like a Don Lemon. Like, why the fuck would I sit around taking life advice from Don Lemon? You know what I'm saying? And he ain't the only one. It is Van Jones crying every 5 fucking seconds like a little bitch. And the rest of these broke wristed ass, soft talking, lisp having motherfuckers so gay they type with a lisp. Why would I take their advice? Why would I take political guidance from a man that gets fucked by a white man, from a black man that gets fucked by a white man every night? Why would I do that? I have nothing in common with that man. Yeah, sure, we both have dicks, but I put mine in the right hole. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we both have assholes, but nothing goes into mine. You know what I'm saying? I have nothing in common with you, sir. And from the time I started seeing this cast of characters pushing this narrative, it kind of just pushed me away from that whole mentality. That's why I can't understand these so-called masculine black men that call themselves Democrats and would advocate for the Democrat Party. But after years of study and research and understanding how the propaganda machine works, I realized they are under a spell. They're either under the control of their woman, so they're afraid to go against the grain, so they'll do what they wife or what they mama say, or they're under a spell and they're trained and programmed to believe that this is the only credible source of information. So no matter who gives them the information, whether it's a bunch of liberal whores or some black fags, they'll take that because that is the only real source of information. But as for you know, straight masculine men in general, we're not going for that shit. I will not be led by a homosexual. I will not. I cannot. That's worse than being led by a woman. It is. And no offense to the women, but it's not a woman's job to lead. That's why the most successful world leaders have always been men. The most successful societies have always been governed by men. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. And as a man, I cannot, like, I would rather live alone by myself than live with a woman that I cannot lead. I can't do that. The masculinity in me won't allow for that. So I'll never be able to be at peace if there's some chick telling me what to do every 5 minutes. I can't do it. I'm a boss myself. I can't do that shit. And for these grown-ass masculine men who can submit themselves to homosexuals, a bunch of pseudo women, which are men that pretend to be women, and a bunch of women that are liberal whores because they whore themselves out to the establishment, for a masculine man to be able to subject himself to that, that means he's not really masculine. He might have the mannerisms of a masculine man. He might have the cadence of a masculine man. He might have the presence of a masculine man, but he's got the heart of a bitch. And if put in the right circumstances and put under enough pressure, man pressure, that bitch will come right up out of him. All that masculine man shit goes out the window. You see just straight bitch. So as a man, my soul just automatically rejected this message coming from these media talking heads whose demeanor and characteristics did not match what I envisioned as adequate leadership. So I rejected it. And then you contrast that with the conservative commentators and the alternative media commentators, and even with Trump himself. That masculine, strong leadership, it shows. And as a man, I'm okay with getting behind that, because I can identify with that more than I can identify with this weirdo shit. I cannot find myself on the same political aisle as people like this. And any masculine man that finds himself on the same side of the political aisle as people like this really needs to re-examine his masculinity, because it's lacking. As men, it's very easy for us to spot good men and bad men. It's very easy. This is why, for you ladies, if you had brothers in your life or a father in your life, when you were dating that guy that wasn't no good for you, what were they telling you the whole time? Even when you thought shit was all good, before shit went south and their words were proven to be true, what were they telling you? He ain't no good for you. He ain't no good for you. Because we can read other men, and we can tell if they really about what they say they about. And as a man, when you look at this image, the first thing that jumps out at you is crazy, chaotic, insane, incapable, inept, weakness, effeminate, cucky, everything antithetical to what real, pure, God-given masculinity is supposed to be. And what's even more diabolical about men that do this to themselves is they do this because they hate their own masculinity. They literally, like, this is the epitome of self-hate. That's what this is. God made you a fucking man, but you decide to adorn yourself with the colors and the garments of a bitch. That means you hate yourself. And as a man that loves myself and respects myself, I cannot join forces with people that hate themselves. I can't do it. My soul won't let me do it. That's why I couldn't be no celebrity and go to them parties where they do all kinds of debaucherous shit. Cause I'll be that motherfucker to get kicked out the party for being like, what the fuck? That's why I can't have no high paying job where I got to work around all this gay shit and be okay with that shit. I can't do it because I'm that motherfucker that's going to be like, what the fuck? And get fired. Monkeypox, man. That's funny. You see, that's why I can't look at this motherfucker. Look at this one. Look at him. As faggoty as they come. Look at them. Look at them. Both of them. Two damn weirdos. Cracked out weirdos. But of course, the fake news is going to try to portray them and play it off as if they're normal. Like these are normal thinking people. They are not thinking people. They are crazy people. And the people that are manipulating them are evil people. Monkeypox, man. That's funny. The people manipulating them, they know that they're crazy. And look at him. Even he look a little zesty. Look at him. Every time I see a black Democratic male, I remember Andrew Gillum. And if you guys don't know who Andrew Gillum is that black Democrat that was the mayor of Tallahassee, Florida, which arguably has the shittiest roads in the entire state of Florida, by the way, because it's a Democratic city. And he ran against Ron DeSantis in 2018 for the governorship of Florida. And he lost, of course, because Ron DeSantis is now the governor of Florida. And that happened in November of 2018. And by February of 2019, pictures were being published and the news broke of Andrew Gillum, the former candidate for governor of the state of Florida that ran against Ron DeSantis, was found butt naked, passed out in a hotel room full of male prostitutes and all kinds of drugs, muscle relaxers, meth, painkillers. And there was blood and feces all over the sheets. So there was definitely some zestophilia taking place in there. And every time I see, Zesty Tether, he's not FBA. Leonard, he said that the four-headed airline always give it away. Yo, do I have an FBA hairline? Because my shit I think I'm starting to bald in the corners now. And I don't think that's the FBA. Is that an FBA hairline or is my hairline starting to fade and the tether in me starting to show? Am I starting to, y'all can see that I'm a tether now? But every time I see a Democratic male, especially a black Democratic male, Andrew Gillum always pops in my head. And what's funny is they're all like, look at Cory Booker. He's sweeter than sugar. Nah, that's not my term, Jason M. Schmidt. That's Big Homie CC. Shout out to Big Homie. He's the one that created that. He created zestology. That's the study of these homosexuals and their mentality. Zestophilia is their Minister Jap. Sorry, Minister Jap. Zestophilia is what they engage in. Zestophiles is who they are. Zestophiles engaging in zestophilia. Leonard say you still good. You sure about that, Leonard? Hold on, man. I've been sipping some drink. Now I feel self-conscious. Is that an FBA hairline? Or am I losing my, because see, I'm balding like up in here. Like if I go like this, like you see that shit? You see that shit? And then you look here in the middle, it ain't that bald. I don't know. I feel like I'm losing my FBA hairline, man. I ain't got no FBA hairline. That's a tether hairline. Hell, I got tether hair. I don't know. What y'all think? Y'all can tell I'm a tether? Can you tell? God damn, man. I thought I looked sharp tonight, man. Damn, I thought I was going to take somebody bitch, man. I can't even, man. Now I look like a damn big four-headed greasy ass tether, man. Trump's Dallas. What? Trump's Dallas Trump's the last president says, my wife is staring, so you good. Man, you better tell her stop staring, bro. That's not a good sign, man. I'm just some dude on the internet, bro. She can't. Listen, lady, if you're staring at me, you better stop disrespecting your husband for some dude on the internet, okay? Don't do that. Trust me, I will not love you the way he loves you. Don't do that. I will dog you out. Don't do that. And I'm only saying this because I respect you as a woman and I don't want you to lower your standards to come fuck with a dirty dog like me. Don't do it. That man loves you. That man respects you. And he loved you enough to marry. You know what it takes for a man to decide to marry a woman? You know how many women I've been with that I wanted to marry and eventually I was like, I can't marry this chick. You know what I'm saying? So please, please, please don't be one of those women, okay? You respect that man and you love that man. Listen, I'm going to tell you a story. Angry Man put me onto this and I looked it up. There was a study done, right, of lab mice. And lab mice and humans tend to be very close in DNA. And one rat was put in a cage with one female. The other male rat was put in another cage with 5 different females. Okay? Listen, follow me. And after several months, they noticed strange behavior from the rat that was in the cage with the one female, where every couple of weeks or so, he would just haul off in a corner by himself. And every time the female would get near him, he would snarl at her and run her off and shit. And then the rest of the time after he gets through that phase, they'll be cool again, right? So he'll be back, flirting with her, mating with her and all that shit. Everything's good. The male rat that was in the cage with the 5 females, he was just bouncing from chick to chick to chick to chick consistently, never took any of that alone time by himself like the rat with the one female. At the end of it all, evaluations were done on both rats. And the male rat that had the one female, his body had deteriorated so badly that he was on the verge of death. His bone density had decreased. His muscle mass had decreased. His body fat accumulation had increased. His testosterone had severely decreased, or whatever the male hormone is, had severely decreased. His fur was falling out. He was just in bad. His teeth were dull. He was just in bad shape. Then the rat with the 5 females, his bone density had increased. His muscle mass had increased. His testosterone levels were high as fuck. His fur was thick and shiny and as beautiful as ever. So the one that was stuck with the one female, he was actually sacrificed. He was actually losing his life. Whereas the one that had the opportunity to be a player, his life was expanded. So when I say to you married women out there, love and respect your husband, because just the mere fact that he married you, I say that with all seriousness, because when a man chooses to settle down with one woman, he literally dedicates what's left of his shortened life to you. And I think that alone is worthy of respect, because the players will live forever. And I'm about to go back to the streets. Me and my chick just broke up. I ain't break up with her. She broke up with me. So fuck it. I'm going back to the streets and I'm going to live a long fucking time, because I'm going to be one of them old players that's from New York. But then as I get older, my accent starts to sound Southern, because that's how old black men talk. I'm practicing now. Right? But for you women that are lucky enough to find a man that's willing to marry you and stay with you and put up with your shit, you need to stop giving that man so much shit. And if you're in a situation where you want to spend time with your husband, but he's not spending a lot of time with you and he tends to go off by himself, you think of that rat in the corner dying in the cage and snarling at the female every time she gets near him. You think about that fucking rat. That's your husband. And the reason why he's like that is because it's something that you're doing that's driving him away. And 9 out of 10 times, whatever it is that you're doing is disrupting his peace. And I'm going to tell you right now, as a guy that's dealt with plenty of women in my life, so many that I got 3 baby mamas from 3 failed attempts at families. I'm telling you right now, a lot of you women, what y'all do is Y'all will call your man out for shit that he does, but you don't allow him the opportunity to call you out for shit that you do. And when he tries to, you find your immediate response is to find a way to flip it around on him and make it his fault. So it's his fault for your bad behavior. And what that does to a man is that makes a man feel like it's happened to me, where I've literally had to sit down and tell myself, like, I can't talk to this bitch. And if I can't talk to this bitch, what's the point in being in this relationship? I'm literally killing myself being in this relationship with a motherfucker I can't even tell they did something wrong to without being excoriated. What the fuck am I doing? And that literally makes a man not want to be around you. So when your man takes the time to make himself vulnerable to you, to tell you that, look, babe, you did X, Y, and Z. I wasn't really feeling that shit too much. You better take that shit to heart for two reasons. Reason number one, he cares enough. If he's pointing out things that he would like you to change, that's because he loves you and he doesn't want to have to let you go, and he cares. Number two, the second reason is because he cares and he wants to be with you. He wants to foster an environment where he can be with you without it costing him his peace. But the more you reject that and the more you take that shit personal and start making it a back and forth tit for tat, is the further away you're driving that man. And then eventually it'll get to a point where he would rather not talk to you. Then you're going to find yourself in the house together and he's not paying you no fucking mind. You know why? Because he finds peace watching the game. He finds peace sitting outside having a cigar or a blunt or whatever. He finds peace going to the gym. He finds peace at work. So he works extra hours now. He finds peace sitting in his car. Because when he comes home from work, he stays in his car because he don't want to come inside and deal with your ass. You see what I'm saying? So as women, it's very important to think about that dying rat, because that's your husband. He could be out there with his testosterone levels through the roof, running through all the holes, because it don't matter how fat and ugly you think your man is. I'll tell you right now, there's a woman out there that will fuck his brains out. But the fact that he passes up on all that fun and all that vitality that can keep him living forever, he comes home to you where he's slowly dying. And it's your job as his wife to nurture him, love him, and appreciate him. Because he's giving up his life and his health for you. All I got to say. I'm not a relationship guru, but I've dealt with enough fucked up women in my life to know what is required to consider yourself a good woman. And if you have a husband that doesn't want to spend time with you, before you start blaming him and trying to figure out what's wrong with him, the way you solve that problem is to figure out what's wrong with you and why he doesn't want to be around you. And it's hard to do. It's hard to do because it literally requires you to look yourself in the mirror and say, damn, my husband must think I'm fucking up. What am I fucking up at? And if you're concerned about your husband not spending time with you, the best thing you can do and the most refreshing thing to him is to ask him. Say, hey, honey, I noticed this week you kind of been distant. You kind of been absent. Is there anything that I can do differently to change that? And if he really loves you and he really cares about you and wants to understand you, you know what he'll say? He'll say, yeah, babe, you know what? When I come home, I want this, this, and that. You know what I'm saying? When I'm trying to smash, like, I need you to be open and ready. You know what I'm saying? I don't want no excuses. I love intimacy, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And I don't feel like I get enough of that. Like, he'll tell you what the problem is, but you have to be willing to receive it. Because when you ask him what the problem is and he starts telling you and you come to learn that you're the fucking problem, your first immediate emotion is going to be to fire back, justify it, and make it his fault. Don't do that. Don't ever do that. That's the worst thing you can do, because that will make him never want to talk to you again. And once a man reaches a point where he realizes he can't talk to you, you know what comes next? If he's a dog ass nigga, it's gonna be some other bitch he's gonna talk to because she's gonna want to hear him out and she's gonna appreciate him. Or he'll just live the rest of his life in a sexless, sad, lonely relationship and he'll be dead by 57. Yeah, Leonard, I want to live too. And you know what's crazy? My beard got thicker. I cut it down short since I keep saying I broke up. I'm used to being the one getting cheated on and walking away and shit, but that wasn't the case this time. It was just unnecessary irritation until she just gave up, right? So whatever. But since me and R&B Babe broke up, like my beard been getting thicker. I had a bunch of gray hairs on the top of my head. They don't even show no more. Like my skin looks better. Even my muscle mass increased a little bit. I haven't even been working out. I've barely been working because it's wintertime. My beer gut kind of went away a little bit. I don't even drink beer like that. You know what I'm saying? Like I've noticed I feel like I'm alive again. You know? Like I'm not that rat in the corner of the cage no more. You know what I'm saying? Now I just got to rebuild my roster because I deleted all my hoes when I got with R&B Bay. I was trying to be faithful. I ain't got no hoes now. Now I got to rebuild my roster. I don't even know how to do that shit. I've been in relationships so long, I don't even know how to do that shit. You know? So that's going to be kind of difficult. And I'm an old nigga now. I ain't in my 20s no more. Like, oh, man. Oh, it's going to be tough. Yeah, Trey Finesse. He says, we don't understand how much a woman can hold us back. That's true. That is true. And we also need to understand how much a woman can propel us. Because if you got the right woman that treats you right and makes you feel appreciated, that constant slow death that you're encroaching on every day, it don't feel so deathly. You know what I'm saying? It don't feel so cold. It actually feels like it's worth it. Like, yes, I'm dying, but at least I'm dying for something good. I'm dying for a woman that actually loves me and cares about me, as opposed to those men that die sleeping in separate rooms. That's the most tragic shit. Aramliv says unks are in style now. I ain't no damn unk, man. I'm still big bro. I'm 37. You don't become unk till you're 45. I'm 30. I said 37. I'm tripping. Oh my God. Oh, I'm turning into a woman. I'm 38. I'm going to be 39 this year. So I'm 6 years away from being an unk. But Trump's the last president. You inspired this talk, and I'm glad that I was able to get this talk out because you know what? There's a lot of young brothers out there that are in relationships that they love the woman and they think she loves him, but the shit just don't feel right. The conversations don't go right. It constantly feels unfair. She always want to be heard, but you never feel heard. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of young brothers going through that, and I'm saying this because I don't want those brothers to make the mistake that I made and stay in relationships like that thinking it's going to get better. Because if she's above the age of 25 and that's the way she communicates, that shit will never change. And here's why it'll never change. Because there's always going to be some other dude out there that wants to fuck her, and she'll confuse that with him wanting to be with her. So she'll feel like she has other options and she can get what she's getting out of you from any other man. So you're wasting your fucking time. Any man that's in a relationship with a woman that don't respect him is wasting not only his time, but his life. And I think that's one of the most tragic ways that men go out in this world. And I'd like to see that change. Because me, personally, I refuse to be that motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Once we start sleeping in separate rooms, it's over. It's a done deal. I'm out. It's done. No. Listen, Anthony, my son Anthony, his mother lived with her parents, her mother and her father. And for as long as Anthony's 6 now, and for longer than Anthony's been alive, because I knew her 2 years before Anthony was born. For longer than Anthony has been alive, her mother and father have slept in separate rooms. And 2025, a week or two before Thanksgiving, that man died. Okay. And what broke my heart about, because me and him were not the best of friends. I never did shit to him, but he always encouraged his daughter to alienate me from Anthony. But I felt sad for him when I found out that he died, because that man died living in a household where him and his wife slept in separate rooms for years. And I told myself, that will never be me. Ever. Ever, 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 ever. But anyway, I got to get up out of here. Let me just shout you guys out real quick. Are we still screen sharing? Yeah, we're screen sharing. So that's it for tonight's show. Shout out to everybody that supported the show. Let me go ahead and double check and shout my peoples out. Shout out, excuse me. Shout out to my good brother Lee14224 with the PayPal donation. Shout out to, let me see, damn it. All of a sudden, Cash App's asking for a PIN number now. Yeah, whatever. Shout out to Beaver Valley for the Cash App. Says salute. Thank you for everything you do. Appreciate that, Beaver Valley. Now let me jump over to the Citizen Man Cash App real quick and shout out those folks. So what was that? 2 so far? And then I think I got 2 over here. Yep. Shout out to my man Ronald, says the truth. And shout out to my sister Angela, says all you do. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate you guys for that support. Oh shit, I thought I was screen shared. Why am I not screen shared? What the hell's going on here? Okay. Now we're screen sharing. So guys, Minnesota is in total free fall. They have fallen into insurrection. The insurrection will lead to a military takeover eventually. This is all just a buildup to get all the pieces in place to justify the military takeover. And I believe there will be midnight raids and people will go missing, and all this chaos and ruckus in the streets is going to die down very quickly. And as far as this guy that got killed by ICE, just another weirdo that martyred himself for the cause, a stupid cause at that. And of course, the crooked courts, the crooked politicians, all in play now. So military takeover is, as far as I'm concerned, it's been justified from the moment they started fomenting this violence. But I think what Trump was trying to do is give them a fair chance to walk it back and actually, call for peace, but they're deciding to continue to call for violence. All right. And last but not least, make sure you guys go subscribe to the Rumble channel. If you haven't followed me on Rumble, please make sure you do. Also, subscribe to the Citizen Man channel, the backup channel, in case they zap me over here on Citizen Man TV. And of course, last but not least, Cash App, PayPal, or Venmo. If you'd like to support the show, all the links are available. All right. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you guys for being here. Appreciate you guys showing me love, showing me support as always. And I'll see you on the next one. Citizen Man, out.